Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we watch an anime, we come on this show and discuss it in a book club style format because we don't like to read, we like to watch TV. Then after we're done discussing it, we turn our discussion over to you, the listener, to let us know what you thought about it, to let us know where we're right, where we're wrong, or whatever you want to tell us. And to talk about this week's anime, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the BMO to my Finn. It's Jeremy with his hot take.
Theory of the Zerum animation is the best sci-fi horror anime ever.
Too spicy. Then we have the Rosie to my George, Jason, with his hot take.
Sunny Boy was way overrated and is a hot mess of contemporary garbage. Fight me in the comments.
Sizzling. And my name is Troy, and my hot take is that Sunny Boy is one of the most underappreciated anime of modern times. It was deep, thoughtful, complex, and original, and audience did not know how to handle that.
How is that a hot take? It's like a
combo.
I agreed with the mass majority of audience.
The mass majority didn't
Such
watch
a hot
Sunny
take.
Boy. Didn't win any awards. It didn't receive any accolades. Yeah, there's a few super fans, but you could say that about any. You know, I have 100 girlfriends and their boobs are all big. The series, you know.
Oh, like the best anime we watch.
Yes.
No, there's actually a show right now called My 100 Girlfriends or something like that. So that wasn't. Even
I did
that much
hear
of a
about
shit.
that one.
Also, how dare Sunny Boy's mine to do hot takes on? What are you
I
doing?
know. I thought maybe it'd be Kiss Niver or something, but Sunny Boy, you know, I shouldn't have been surprised.
I saw something about it, and I've been steaming all week. I just
Somebody likes Sunny Boy.
So, quick context. We're not supposed to do context, but I'm going to do it anyway because Jason says, let's do hot takes instead of anime picks. And it worked great. It was a great idea. But I thought of my Sunny Boy one, and then I went back and was watching clips from Sunny Boy. I watched the song of the ending, which is still amazing. Such a great finale scene.
Ending was so dumb.
The shadows are spinning around them, but then they figure out where they're going, and the shadows are straight right behind them because they're going towards the light. They finally figured it out. So good.
Excuse me.
I meant what it said.
Learning is kicking in.
I do think that'll give people a good frame of reference of where our reviews come from, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's all you needed to know.
Yep.
All right, we are discussing the extra long anime Pluto. Context of what Pluto is a series on Netflix, but it was a very popular manga back in 2003, and it's an adaptation reimagining of a storyline from Astro Boy, one of the OG animes of all time. And it's from the creator of Monster, but he is such a huge fan of Astro Boy, he did this series with help from the creator of Astro Boy's son when he wrote it, and this has finally gotten an anime adaptation after all this time. So kind of a lot of prestige in there. So we watched it. We have thoughts.
And it's not a spin-off of Astro Boy, but it's a side story.
It's almost like a alternate dimension kind of story. Like it's a different version of Astro Boy.
It's a reimagining of like, what if Astro Boy, but Blade Runner?
Right.
So Adam is Astro Boy for all intents and purposes.
Yes.
Yeah,
in fact,
in this alternate retelling.
In Astro Boy, his name is Adam. That is his real name. Astro Boy is just like the, I think, English cartoon version because they had to sell it.
Right.
Okay. Non-spoiler reviews. Jeremy, why don't you start us off?
It had a lot of really interesting ideas. I kind of liked the pacing. It was very slow, meted out its clues very slowly, very gradually. I kind of liked that. I didn't mind sitting for as long as it was. But I definitely I have some very mixed feelings in regard to just some of the general premises, especially when it comes to the AIs and how they behave and what the rules are, and it's really interesting. I think it's going to be fun to talk about. I can't say that I was really that satisfied by the conclusion. I thought it became a little bit more tropey than I would have liked. Everything seemed to be going in a pretty cool mystery direction, and then it just kind of went into something that I see a little bit more often. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I'm still on the fence. It'll be fun to talk about and figure out where I'm really at.
How do you rate? Sorry, Jason. We'll get to you in a second. And this isn't something to discuss yet, but how do you rate something that's a trope, but it like invented the trope, but now
that's a fair point.
Decades later,
it
tells itself again, and it's like, we've seen that 100 times, but I did it first, sir.
Yeah, that is a really fair point.
But it did.
I think,
but no, because it also said I'm a fresh take on this tale.
Right. Well,
do that.
And I think for me the issue is whether it's consistent with the manner of the rest of the storytelling. So like if it wanted to be tropey for the sake of celebrating the creation of the original tropes, then I think I'd be all for that because, it's celebrating it. But if you do something that's such a drastic departure from the original story that you have to create an alternate world because it's got a tone that's so different that it just doesn't fit, then to come back in the end and do something that does kind of feel tropey, at least to me, I think that can't be viewed as celebrating the tropiness so much as falling back on it, maybe as a crutch, or not knowing how to conclude the story in a way that meshes with the same tone. So I think that's where I stand on that one.
I had to ask the question because I could almost hear the comment already being typed out.
No, that's a good question.
Fair enough. All right, Jason, your thoughts?
I'm going back and forth on this one as well. The length was not great for me, and not so much. I think it had pacing problems because it was some episodes I felt exhausted after watching them because it is a pretty dense anime, and it's asking you to consider a lot of fairly deep questions, which I liked. I'll have to say the food for thought, like once you turn off the anime, was good. I really enjoyed the thought experiments that the anime was asking us to partake in. However, I thought the story, so like in the micro, the storytelling was actually fairly engaging, but in the macro, it felt bland. So, yeah, I'm mixed. I'm in Jeremy's boat. Like I'm gonna really solidify my rating depending on this discussion.
For me, I walked away really enjoying the overall story. I love the themes that are explored. I love the topics we're discussing. I love the characters. I feel like there's a pacing problem. It felt too long to me. It felt like a lot of stuff can be cut. I felt like we could do this in like 6 hours. Maybe 2 movies or 3 special series. This is clearly trying to set up I want you to sit and simmer in this world, in this Nor emotions that we're building here. I want to take side stories and just really explore them, even though they're characters who aren't going to be relevant to the story forever. But I just want to explore that world. And I think that probably works great in the manga form, and I'm sure there's people who really enjoy that. Usually I'm one of them. This just went so much. It was just so much that there are times I felt like I was dragging through the series. But then when I look back and say, hey, look at the major events that happened, I was like, oh, this is great. Those were all very exciting and all leading up to very cool story points. So overall, I liked it. I think it's almost worth a rewatch, but I don't want to sit through a rewatch. So that's where I'm torn. I'm giving it high praise, but would I rewatch it? it almost deserves one because of all the mysteries and having to go back and restart and see, okay, what were they doing back in the beginning that paid off in the end? And I do think they did that. But, oh, so much to watch, so much to talk about. We're gonna be skipping over chunks, so I would definitely will not be giving it a fair retelling as we go through this. So if you are interested in it, please, it's well worth the rewatch for you, rather than hearing it from me, because I'm just gonna hit what I feel like were the most important notes, but probably aren't. All right. Usually we talk about opening and closing. Did you guys like how the credits scrolled from the bottom to the top?
It was very
It had
succinct.
some pacing problems.
The first set could have gone faster.
And then the opening is just like Pluto.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be Marvel.
Yeah. It was just very comic book intro. Yep.
Well, yeah, it was so it's showing clips from the manga. Again, this manga has been super popular for a long time, and it finally got its anime. It makes sense in the context of why they're doing it. Like, we know why you're here because this manga was so great.
We're like,
not much to write home.
Manga?
Right?
Yeah. Actually, for the first little bit, I was genuinely curious. I was like, wait, did they draw these? Did they draw these for the intro? Or is there actually a manga? Of course there's a manga.
All right. Before we move on to spoiler section, our next anime is Dead Mount Death Play.
Season 1.
Season 1. Jason, can you give us an elevator pitch?
No. Yes, actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I remember. So it's kind of a reverse isekai. It's the corpse god. He's a powerful necromancer. He loses in his world, and then he's reborn in Japan, and hijinks ensue.
Devil is a part-timer? That's
No,
getting some vibes.
No. So this is not comedy. This is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Similar premise, but mature and
Different tone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I remember this in a Mother's Basement preview episode.
Oh.
So I use him to check out like what's new each season usually, and I think I remember him talking about this one, how the first episode had a strong start. So that'll be cool to check out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, spoiler section for Pluto. Also, Astro Boy.
Yeah.
So,
a little bit, maybe.
A little bit. Yeah, the story is the same, at least the major plot points. So yeah, we'll also be spoiling that. If you're like, hey, I'm gonna go back and rewatch that Astro Boy and read that Astro Boy manga, we're going to spoil that plot line. We are in a futuristic world full of AI and robots, and not AI that just copy everyone's art, like they think and feel.
No, this feels very iRobot. The beginning.
At
Right.
first.
I think so, especially because we've had our pre-show, we've kind of talked about our feelings about certain things, and AI is going to be a big thing for Jeremy. So one thing I just want to make sure that everyone understands: the robots are at a point where they are a hair width away from being human, to the point where they are all but imitating human lives. They go home to their wives and have tea, even though no one's watching. No one's like, "Hey, robots have tea." They're like, "We must drink the tea." That's what the humans do. That's brought up a lot. And AI creation is at the point where they're like, how do we just make this a human mind? Like, what's the one missing puzzle piece?
Mm-hmm.
That is where we are with the robots. And some still look pretty robotic. Some look like humans except for one part. And then there's full-on human-looking robots walking around. And when people meet these robots, they're like, oh, you are a robot. Okay, I wasn't aware. It's not even weird to meet a human-looking robot. Everyone's aware they exist.
Mm-hmm. So, right off the bat,
how dare they?
Yes. So there's some very interesting things about this that I think they're really cool, but I also have some problems with like the economy and stuff that's in this world, because it just doesn't seem to work. And maybe it. Okay, I love the GURPS role-playing books, and they do a fantastic job of like outlining all kinds of different scenarios where you have this technology is really advanced and, well, these other technologies are not, right? And so you'll get different kinds of biotech and cyber tech and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you even have retro, right? And so I was kind of looking at this the same way. There's probably a justification for why the economy is not as I would expect it to be. And what I mean is, if you have a class of people in this society that are robots that are supposed to have the same rights as everybody else, you would have parts for them. They have money. We see them buying things. You would have replacement parts. And so there's a particular scene later where there's like this dog that's found, and it's an old broken dog. And I'm like, nobody has like antique parts? The guy's calling around and he's like, oh no, there's no antique parts. But the robots are like adopting broken down old robots and calling them their kids. So old robots are a thing, whether they be dogs or people. It's common. So that was just one of the things that was bugging me. Is like there should be an entire economy built up around maintaining old robots that are still in operation because they have rights, because they're citizens. So that kind of just, it was just very weird. But then there's also just this concept that the robots are faking these things, and yet they have these families that they go home to. Like I don't know. It's so weird. It's such a different thing. Like they must have some kind of massive bandwidth being consumed to stop them from being singularities, as we all, imagine AI would eventually become because of the processing speed. But these AI are clearly not becoming singularities. They're not so advanced that they operate on so many cycles, like millions of times faster than a human. So something must be consuming the bandwidth, and maybe it's simulating the human personalities. I don't know. It's such a, I'm fascinated by it, but it's also kind of twisting my brain because this is not the AI that I'm used to seeing in any story that I've been told. These things are basically like another species. They're another biological species with like Vulcans. They're like, oh, I don't quite understand emotion, but I'm still a biological creature. But then they're mechanical inside. It's super weird. It's not traditional AI. There's my rant.
Jason, do you want to add any thoughts before I also jump in?
I get where he's coming from, but I think if
The economy, did you think about the economy too? Because I did not.
I thought about not the economy specifically, but I thought about the points, the externalities that Jeremy's talking about, and I'll get into those in just a second. I think to be fair to the anime, if the anime sets up rules for you and says these are the premises that we're going to be acting upon, judging it off of other stories, AIs, or traditional AI storytelling, I don't think is particularly fair. So I hope you're not doing that. Not saying you are.
No.
But I get that it's weird. But
yeah,
also,
just trying to
like,
comprehend
we kind of need to hand wave some of it to be like, hey, this is what's happening within their world. How do they deal with these things?
Sure.
What really irritates me about this anime, however, is that they break their own rules on many different occasions when it comes to the AI and robotics and how they work. And also, like, in reality, which this anime is pretending to be, is like a future reality. When you turn off a toaster oven, like you unplug it from the wall, if you plug it back in, it will toast your toast again. We have instances within this anime where the AI module is taken out of the head of one android and swapped into another and is just fine. But then we have other instances where bodily damage has happened with no damage to the head, but the android dies, or the robot dog. The robot dog, nothing happened to its AI modules, but all of a sudden it just dies. There's no hope of it putting it in a different robot dog. This is like their own rules are broken, and it's dumb, and it undermines some of the emotional hits for me.
Yep, 100% agree.
the for Jeremy's thing, the anime at least very clearly states that the popular theory among AI scientists is that if the AI is advanced enough, if they fake a human emotion enough, they can learn for it to be real. And we do see characters who have super advanced AI that they don't even have to do that. They just can feel emotion from the get-go. And then we see like a pretty advanced model. Hey, start fake crying, and then pretty soon you will be really crying and then able to express your emotion through that method. So you're right, they are faking it, and it never ever tells us for sure robots can feel emotion. I just want to say what I really appreciated what they did with that is this is a story about human emotions and the effects on the world and war and all that stuff because of human emotion. And to explore that, they used the robots as people who are awakening to emotions for the first time and are having to come to grips with it, rather than a human who's like, yeah, I know what hate is. I'm a 20-year-old man. I've been on the internet. I know what hate is. They have robots who are like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of this? Which makes it easier to explore that theme. So I found it really smart to use the robots, especially when you go look at old Astro Boy and the robots like talk to each other, and there's just no indication they are robotic except for people telling them they're robots. They act very human in old Astro Boy cartoons. There's just nothing robotic in their performance or anything at all.
I saw a couple clips. Yeah, you're
so
absolutely right.
It kind of feels like they took that and then used that to their advantage in the story, and I felt they've made a fair rule to explain it. As far as the removable AI, I don't have a counter to that. There's definitely characters that are moving their brains. But that did.
It's a common thing too, like a construction worker, just a construction worker.
Yeah, and even a wrestler can take his head off and put it into another body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no robotic scientist. I can't explain the science.
The only conclusion I could come to with the particular case of bodily damage that you might be thinking of is that maybe his was integrated because he's made of some kind of different alloy. They kept talking about how he's built differently using zirconium. And so I'm wondering
his
if
bodily structure and skeleton, not
would
his
support
internal network.
Not necessarily. It might be distributed.
Well, then that's dumb.
Yes, I don't disagree with you, but that would be the only justification I could think of mechanically.
Okay, I'm sure this is going to come back up, so I'm just going to start the story. Oh,
good call.
A forest is on fire in the opening scene, and we find out it's because a robot has been murdered. A robot who, while he used to be a warrior robot, spent his time fixing this forest, protecting this forest, and now he is dead. His head on a rock with two branches sticking up, and this is a serial killer case about robots and humans being killed, and then horns stuck where their neck should be. They kept calling it horns though, and no one actually stuck anything into the head. But
yeah,
whatever.
And they kept saying they even said a few times that they were stabbed into the head, and I never saw him stabbed.
So
well,
like
maybe
always almost at the neck.
But yeah. This android is basically Smokey the Bear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Good analogy. And then we see our main character awaken from a nightmare, even though we find out he's a robot, and then find out he has a wife. Even though it's kind of played loosely at the beginning of like, is this a robot? Why is everyone treating him weird? But this is Gazikt. He is one of 7 robots of mass destruction in the world, one of the most advanced robots in the world, and he is a detective for not Interpol.
Europol.
Your guys' thoughts on Gazikt?
I'm a Pole, no Europol. He was an amazing character. The mystery surrounding this character, also like his personal life and also his professional life, and like we find out that he ends up getting memories deleted, which we'll get into with story beats. All of that was fantastic. I was so digging it. it was really it was almost like, hey, could we repackage this whole mystery like crime solving thing into a different anime only for him? Like, it was like his relationship with the company that like I assume they built him, but also like maintain him, and the scientists that brought him to life, which I actually really enjoyed that character as well. This was a very smartly written whodunit kind of crime. I almost felt like I was watching a really good episode of like Law and Order, but with an android as the policeman. Like it felt good. I really like this character.
A cool android with a Zeronium cannon for the lead. It's Ice Cube the robot.
Nice.
So yeah, I thought this guy was great. He carried the show for a lot of it. There were certainly a few other arcs that I really liked, but I was always enjoying the parts where Geschicht. Good luck with that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geschicht. Where he was the
Bless
you know
you.
the attention was back on him.
Nicely done.
Yeah. So yeah, I got a lot of like for instance with the memory loss thing, that was cool, but after a little while it kind of became okay, I figured out what's going on. You've given me enough clues. You don't have to stretch this particular storyline out any longer. And they did stretch that out. So that's probably one area where I was like, okay, there's probably two areas. This was one. The other was who the main bad guy was. Like, come on. Where it was like you're pacing. I'll agree with you guys. The pacing was stretched out for those things.
We got him.
I know, right?
So fast.
You have convinced me. But just for those, I liked some of the other stuff. But yeah, I mean, he was a good character. I didn't really see new. He didn't introduce me to ideas I haven't seen before when it comes to AI or the philosophical musings of an AI waking up. But I thought that what they did present was done well. So it was pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I to on that specific point, I like that he's an AI waking up again and having to come to terms with the fact that he already woke once, and how messed
I've already
up that
hated.
is. Yeah, and even just the humans kept being like, yeah, it's so nice that we can't have our memory altered, and him just being like, you think that's not nice? No, he's very dry business detective. He's not like working the streets and he knows all the connections and he can go to the bar and work his contacts. He's just very by the book guy, but in this dark sci-fi world, he's great. So yeah, I just think it was really brave that they made this the main character in the first place. I think that was really cool, and he works. He works great.
I think it's kind of required by the tone too. Like I think if they did have Astro Boy be the lead character, you'd have to have a very different tone for the anime.
Yeah. So we follow him as he's first he hears about the robot whose name is Mont Blanc, whatever. He's dead. He sees that on the news, and then he's called to a crime scene where a robots' right activist has been murdered. All brutally murdered, and then with the horn thing sticking out. He's going to find out. He's going to figure out later that these two things are connected. We already know because the show. One thing this show does though is I felt like it would reveal something. I'm like, that's a great reveal, and then the next episode they would sit down and explain it in complete detail. And I'm like, I thought we did this already. I thought we established we all knew this. Like him having a kid. I was like, oh, that was a great reveal. And then like, oh, I remember having a kid. No, you told us that. We know. But
And then let's do the flashback again. So,
yeah,
okay.
But they were for different people, right? Like the flashback was for someone else to see, like peering into his memories.
Yeah.
No, that was the third time. But anyways.
Yeah, the third time. But the first time it wasn't actually. It didn't show you that. It just hinted at it.
The important thing of the crime scene is that there is no trace of human at the murder scene, which
Yeah.
is impossible for his scanners, right? Like if a human was there, a hair would have fallen down. Something would have been left behind for him to scan. He can't find anything. Then a checkpoint.
So, real quick though, the reason this is so concerning is because in this world, androids cannot harm people.
Isaac Asimov rules.
Yeah. So, like the idea, and
Pretty
I think,
close.
actually, I don't think we've revealed that yet. But so this does not make sense to anybody on the crime scene. It's like, well, a person had to do this because a person was killed.
Humans can't murder, or robots can't murder, except that one, and this other one,
And we don't know why.
and this other one.
That's why we're keeping it alive, because we don't know why. There wasn't a malfunction.
Yeah, but we do find out by the end of the anime this is actually becoming way more common. It's like 4 or 5 robots that can do this now. Anyway, getting ahead.
Oh no!
At a checkpoint that the cops set up, a suspect has broken through and killed a robot cop. They go to they go to that scene, and then he chases down the suspect and ends up just being a drug addict who panicked when he hit the checkpoint, and he arrests him. But what's really important is that the robot cop was killed, even though they should be way able to handle a random drug
Pipe?
drug addict with a pipe.
Are these guys made out of porcelain or aluminum or something? What the heck? And these are the cops. Like, these are the constable robots. Yeah. That bugged me really bad.
Yeah. It's just like, what? With a pipe?
Yeah.
Okay. Did it bother me at all?
Dude, is okay. A human with a pipe goes and beat. Okay, so let's pretend he incapacitated this constable. Like, again, they would just be able to go, okay, AI unit, I'll put in new bot.
Mhm.
Unless he stood there and caved in the head unit until he broke the AI chip. Like, I don't. Anyways, sorry.
Well,
It's not. No, there's no AI chip.
Right. Well,
no, the AI module.
right. We don't really know, like, on specific models how the AI is put in. We've only seen, like, with some of the more advanced ones, or for, like, the ones that look like humans and take their brains out and become construction bots or whatever. So I don't know if these constable bots, like, where they have it. It could even be that, like, the head is just a sensory apparatus and the AI modules in the body. Either way, it doesn't invalidate your point that a bot that is designed to enforce security is to expect some kind of physical altercation. It should be capable of withstanding a pipe. It should be capable of withstanding guns.
When we get the first-person view from that constable bot, it put up 0 resistance.
It even had the gun pointed at him, and it didn't shoot.
And it didn't put up its hands in self-defense.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I think number one, the issue is it didn't properly defend itself. Number two, it's not built to withstand any kind of destructive attempt, even just a drug addict with a pipe. And then number three, it's considered to be a person, right? Like, they have robot laws and rights now, yet it has no redundancy or ability to. I mean, it's got a name. It's Robbie the Constable Bot. Like, was Robbie the Constable Bot. And so it doesn't have any kind of redundancy or safety around its AI module to be able to take that out if it is something that can be taken out. That just all of that did not make sense to me. None of it made any sense. I mean, poor Rosie the robot back at the.
If it wasn't for the construction bot, I could almost be completely okay with it and say, like, this is an advanced model thing only. But that construction robot's like, hey, that's my body that I can just click, click, brain. Which means it's like, this has got to be pretty common, and that really puts it.
Well, and plus, I mean, what are you going to? It's different per country and per like whatever. Well, I'm just thinking, like, with the police force, if you have advanced robots, where are they going to go? Where's the government going to put them? They're usually going to put them in government-run parts of military. Right. They're going to be in the military. They're going to be in the police force. Not construction bots. Construction bots are probably not going to be your most advanced bots.
Right.
So it's just Really weird. Yeah. Well, you're right. Private sector might get ahead of the government. That is definitely a possibility. But yeah, this was weird. One other thing is when Geschicht.
Is your turn?
Thank you. When Geschicht went to interview Robbie's wife, number one, what are you doing giving her husband's last moments to relive? That is terrible. Number two, he offered to erase her memories. So robots can erase each other's memories. And this is normal enough that he would suggest it. It's not like an anathema. It's not some kind of taboo thing either.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I would have to say we don't have too many scenes of offering like this. So one,
True.
it could be that because he's with law enforcement, he has the ability to do that. Or two, that it's so uncommon between them because they want to be human that that's not something that they'll accept.
The only thing is there's a lot of characters who make a comment about it, especially in these early ones, about you robots can just clip, get rid of those memories. Like it's something that's
It's
fairly
like getting a haircut.
known that the robots can do. And like it almost seems like the humans are jealous that this is something robots are doing. Even though we don't really see a lot of robots who are clipping their own memories, they actually seem to prefer to keep them.
Right.
Yeah, everyone that we see says, no, please don't. I need these memories. But that was another thing that was weird is why did he even offer unless that's just more acting? Now, it could be that because he's such an advanced model, he has genuine compassion for her grief. But her grief is faked because she's not an advanced model.
Absolutely. And so
he's like, let me play along with you and eliminate this reason for you to fake being a human, which is what you're trying to do to become more like a human.
It's fairly well established that all robots can feel loss. Now, if they connect that to an emotion like hate or sadness or grief, that's what's kind of in question. But you can make even today's AI have desire. Like, so for instance, with, doing like group teaching, getting that from 0 to 1 is a desire for them. And a bot will do its functions for that end. And so you could reverse that in this case where it's like, even though she's an older model, she still feels the loss of her husband. Like there's a mathematical desire to be whole, if you will, because she's now lost that thing. So he might be projecting pain on top of that loss. That's my headcanon.
That's fair. I mean, it just kind of throws the entire purpose of faking into question then, because if they're actually experiencing loss due to mathematical loss, then they don't need to fake it.
This is my fault, listeners. I chose a robot-themed anime. I should have known what I was doing. Should have thought this through better.
It's genuine loss, and what we're describing is just expression of that loss, right? And we classify that as the emotion.
Yeah, she's an older model, so it's not like she's crying or we don't see her experience grief. But
yeah, but then we kind of do. But you're right, we don't. Not in the manner of the other ones. But anyways, I just thought it was kind of weird because if their whole goal is to try and copy humans by faking them, then wouldn't it be working against that goal to take away something she's using to further copy humans?
That's why she rejected the offer to cut the memories.
But right. I'm just like, he should have understood that. I'm saying his offer was a weird offer.
Again, I think we need to keep the context that in this universe, and I think it's true, at least from the writer's point of view, and people telling the story, they fake it till it's real. So yeah, she's faking to being his wife, but now feels like there's a bond between these two robots, not a pretend bond. They pretended to bond, and that bond has become real over time, which is what I think this scene is trying to tell us, and that she doesn't want to let go of that bond by cutting out those memories, even though he's gone. But you're right. He should also kind of understand it because he has a very
Mhm.
similar bond with his own wife.
Sure.
Much the same way. Probably was just trying to be polite. And I imagine the memory cutting thing was probably something more common in older models that with less advanced AI and becoming less common as they get better and better. So maybe that's.
I honestly think it's projecting because he feels emotions that he doesn't understand yet, in my opinion.
That's possible.
All right, I'm gonna go forward.
Wait, let's revisit.
Yeah. We
Let's
kind of
start
covered
over.
that. Yeah, he's gonna see the wife. He's gonna bring her the memory chip. It's because he pulled her husband out of the garbage. They were throwing him away. It's a really weird world because if you kill a robot, it's considered a heinous, murderous act. Like they talk about a character who killed a robot, and they're not like, oh, he broke machines. They're like, he was a sick, twisted man who did that. So killing a machine is a big deal, but also a garbage man throws away a robot body like it. There's no graves for them. That almost felt too contrasting. The way they treated the respect for robot lives until they were not alive. Then they were literally just tuna cans waiting for the trash.
Yeah. I tried to like justify it by comparing it to cremation, but it just doesn't work. The garbage man isn't the one that collects your body for cremation. There's still ceremony around that.
Yeah.
You know,
His coworkers, and they show that there are people who hate robots, and you could see them being like, "Yeah, we're not going to bury robots." But there's a lot of people who hold robots. That there's human parents adopting robot children and loving them as their own. That is very common in this world. So you'd have to imagine that throwing away robots is it's almost as like an outdated practice that they were about to change, but just haven't yet. Almost. That's about the best I could fit.
All right.
Well, and also you got to remember, like the ceremony is for, the grieving process and emotions, right? And so if you got robots that are just pretending at emotions, then those ceremonies don't.
But he had coworkers. Like he had a human partner,
absolutely.
and his human partner should want to have a ceremony for him or something, based on how everyone else is treating
100%.
robots.
Even the
let's
robots
just
would
recycle
wanna
him.
fake the ceremony.
Memory
Honestly.
chip. We're going to the memory chip. They reviewed the memory chip. Oh, it's super traumatic for her. Of course it is. But they figured out the reason he died is because the second before he was attacked, he got distracted by watching a humanoid figure leap from the murder building to another building.
I was shaking my head too.
Which a human
distracted?
could do.
Really? A
Yeah.
robot distracted?
Right. This is what I mean. Like their processing power must be so limited that they are at the human level. Like, ooh, a squirrel. Like it's just as bad. And that shouldn't happen.
And also, if you rewatch that scene, he doesn't move his head towards the thing that distracted him. The criminal's in his line of sight the whole time.
Yeah, I really feel like we're getting caught up in the trees.
Okay, so the reason I'm kind of fixating here is because this is a problem that happens throughout the entire anime, which is one of the reasons I had a tough time with it. This is not just this constable bot issue. This is an issue that presents itself over and over.
Can you define the issue?
The issue is that they continually break their own rules.
What rule is being broken here?
The robot brain. The robot brain. Just the robot brain.
Yeah. So a couple for me. One, but being able to transfer AI from one head to another. That this dude can beat a metal robot with a pipe and destroy it.
I thought
that a robot could be distracted.
That's
that
the one I thought you were talking about.
No, and that's what I'm saying. My criticisms throughout this entire anime, sure, this is a micro version of that, but there's a macro version where they continually break their own rules in different places, and I don't like it.
So the reason I was asking was just because I agree with you on the other two, but when it comes to like distractions and stuff, I really think that there is a major difference in the hand quote AIs that we have in this story as far as their capacity. I think they are literally just robotic humans in the sense of what their capacity is.
It's not stated anywhere.
it's
I mean,
stated
it's
by the
shown.
evidence, like the
Yeah.
context, how all of them behave, the fact that they don't outthink the humans they're with, they don't outcalculate, outsimulate, outpredict.
Remember when the professor's like 72 hours and the weather bot literally typing on a computer is like, good
Yeah.
calculation, professor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, that's
I
fair.
get. I guess to say to Jeremy's point, there's no point where we see a robot who's like, I have calculated all 2 billion possibilities
Right.
in the past 2 seconds. They
Yeah.
all seem to be thinking at human speed.
Now, the only contradiction I can think of to that is when Tenmu talks about his like 9.9 billion personalities that are being
Yeah, I was
simulated
just
to
about to bring
respond
that up.
immediately. Right. But we only ever hear that talked about for the 2 perfect AIs. Right?
Right, and literally the problem is that would take too long. So he's not like,
And they
this
go
is
into
going to take
coma.
him a day. It's
Right.
going to take him eternity to consider
Yeah.
every personality.
Right. So, yeah, it's weird. I don't know if I like it because to me that's not an AI. That to me is just a person that you're calling a robot so that you can have a story about robots. So it's kind of weird.
Then we see him go talk to Brow, who we've kind of already referenced. He is the only robot in history who has murdered a human. And when they went to study him to find out why, they could not find any flaws in his AI. He was able to do it anyway. And he is
MVP.
he is literally like pinned down and like his body's all strewn about and
Yeah.
tied down. There's a spear sticking him to a wall because they don't want to destroy him. But they also like he literally murders people who comes to visit him. He can convince robots to like blow up. He is, for all intents and purposes, Hannibal Lecter the robot.
Yes.
To the point where he's like, "Good evening, detective. I'm glad you came. I knew you were coming." Your guys' thoughts on
So
Brow,
true.
though?
It was great. It was just
Yeah.
a perfect side character to like, kind of lead on the more subversive plot points. He was fantastic. How he got to where he did at the very end, we'll have to discuss that, but that was a little confusing. But besides that, yeah, brilliant character.
Yeah, if you're going to have anybody exposit or explain things, this is a great way to do it. I was entertained every time. I love this guy. He was as genuine as the robots got. I got the impression that everything he said was just exactly what he thought. And that was so refreshing because with all these other robots, we're like, yeah, I don't know what are they faking right now? Is this genuine? Have they developed real emotions now? Nope, they're still faking. Maybe not. This guy, it's like, no, he's just very pragmatic. Maybe a little bit, what is the term? I can't think of the term, but basically, somebody who is looking for their own interests and really doesn't care who gets hurt in the process.
Narcissist.
And that kind of a narcissist, but I was thinking of a different variety that's not quite as
sociopath.
Sociopathic?
No. I'm sure it'll come to me later, but basically it makes for an interesting character because you can get exchanges with this character that you can't get with anybody else, and it's very entertaining. I love the guy.
Yeah. From him, he kind of like, hey, yeah, clearly the killer is gonna go after the other super robots out there in the world, and the horns represent the god of death, and he's like, it could mean all these names, and then the last one, of course, is Pluto, which is the name of the evil bad guy we'll talk about later. And yeah, that's what we get from him from this session. Then we come to a scene to end this first episode that is I'm going to go over just really lightly touch, but it's like 20 minutes long. And it's about
North number 2, is that who we're talking about?
Yeah,
I love this.
North number 2. So it's like the equivalent of John Williams, right? It's this old, he's blind in this, movie soundtrack writer, and he gets a new robot butler who's one of the super weapons of the world. And I was like, hey, can we not? I love John Williams. I would die for the man. but can we not give him a weapon of mass destruction? Just me, just without thinking out loud. But yeah, so and he's very cranky, and this robot who's his mother is like, "Hey, I would like to learn how to play the piano, and I hear you humming in your sleep." And the guy has a tragic backstory, and even to the point where he sends him away, but he actually goes to this guy's origin country and finds out that his sad backstory wasn't as tragic as he thought, and his mother really loved him. And then it all ends with, "Oh, the bad guy's here. I have to go fight him, even though I wish to never fight again." And so North number 2 goes out and dies to the killer. And we never come back to the director, but this is like a key moment and when I have to explain the pacing issue. I love this story. It is perfectly framed. It is great. It's not needed to tell. We could have skipped this 20 minutes and the impact of the ending doesn't change. Again, it's that I want to steep you in this world, which if that's what you're looking for, it's great. But for me, I was like, wow, that was extra. That was just a lot of extra, but it was good.
And that's the thing is like from the moment that we gave spoiler warning to now, that was episode 1. We have not left episode 1 yet.
Of course, granted, we've been on our little tangents, but
we deserve a lot of credit for that.
Jeremy does, not me.
I loved this arc. For me, like you said, being steeped in the world, this was fantastic. I could totally find this AI believable. This one was fascinating. He was quiet a lot of the time, very distinct about what he wanted. The only thing that was confusing to me was if he's that capable of a war machine, why is he having such a hard time picking up playing the piano? Because playing the piano is a mathematical formula. There is logic to sound.
It requires a finesse. Yeah.
It does require a finesse, but I mean, come on. He was using one finger at a time and pressing the keys slowly. That's not an issue of finesse. That's an issue of not being able to play. He should have started with being able to immediately play, but it would have been not pleasant. It wouldn't have had the same rhythm. It wouldn't have had the same emotion carried in it, but it would have had mechanical precision. I could see that.
I think that's what was happening.
No, he was pressing one key at a time with one finger. Later, he progressed to all of his fingers after multiple lessons, is what we're led to believe.
We have to go back to these AI are human.
Yes. And that's where I really came to that conclusion that these AI, they're not AI at all. They're just people. But it was still really
simulations. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But everything else about him, I loved it. I thought this fit the AI. I loved the whole like I don't ever want to go back to the battlefield. I have been affected emotionally, but I don't really understand that it's emotional. And then that expression comes out through the music that he makes. That was really cool, seeing that, you know, what he was producing wasn't out of a desire for precision, but out of a desire for expression from a violent battle bot.
Okay, so now we have second robot murdered. And then the next episode starts with another robots' right activist guy getting murdered. This one in Japan, though. And at the same time, Gesicht has gone to Japan to visit with Adam. This, for those who don't know, it's Astro Boy, whose name is Atom. I think I got away with it last week, but I was calling him Adam. My bad. It's Atom. Atom. Your guys' thoughts on Adam?
I'm just gonna go reference 15 minutes ago, and then also he's okay. I wasn't particularly attached to this character, and I think the problem is that, again, like you said at the beginning, they kind of sidelined him, and this was more of a anime about Gesicht. So I don't know. I didn't have the same emotional attachment to him near the end that I did with Gesicht. So he was okay. He served his purpose.
Matter of fact, what I'm referencing from our last episode was you asked me which one was Astro Boy. So I don't even think you had that connection of this was the legacy character that they're building around.
Right, because I never watched any or read any of the Astro
Right.
Boy series. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this anime actually falls into the category of anime where the protagonist dies before the end, and someone else has to pick up the pieces. I thought he was an interesting character for himself, just as another AI that was supposedly more advanced even than Geschicht and than the others, to where Geschicht was marveling at him. I don't understand exactly what he was marveling at. That wasn't really clear. It was almost like a mystic
Same here.
marveling, like, yeah, where it's like an AI is musing over how great he is, but not really explaining why. But I did like how he was, how they brought back like the whole picking up the snail and caring for life, and then later he picks it up again, and you're like, oh, are you gonna crush that snail? Are you gonna? At first I was like, are you gonna step on that snail? Then he picked it up and like, oh, you're gonna crush it. That's what you're gonna do. Um, so I thought that they used him well as a device for the storytelling. But I have some problems with what happened when he kind of leveled up, and how he was able to defeat the main baddie in the end. Um, so I don't know. He was fine as a character. He has some interesting backstory both from this and also if you like watch any summaries or go into the Astro Boy, like he's got a pretty messed up background. But
Yeah. So for me, I think that background it has to be helping because while I'm not super familiar with original Astro Boy, um, haven't watched. I've seen references to it. I've seen little clips, but I did watch the Astro Boy movie where Nicolas Cage played Dr. Tenma,
no.
and it's not a good movie, but it does provide that the same. It's the same backstory here, and in fact, he even mentioned getting sold to the circus when he's talking with his itch, and I was like, oh, so he's had, the Astro Boy adventures. He's been going through some of the plot points, but the relationship between him and Tenma, where Tenma's son has died, and so he recreates his son as a perfect robot, but the robot's so perfect he doesn't want it, but he's programmed it to love him, and is like, no, that's not good though. I don't like that you do that. I hate you.
You're supposed to hate me.
Right. How messed up that is for him. And, he is the pinnacle of robotics. Tenma is the best robotics scientist in all of the series, despite everyone else being really good. He is the best, and he created the perfect one and then hated it because of why he built it. Except for then we find out he's created something even better once upon a time.
Yeah.
But
I got the impression that he's the best at cybernetic brains, and like there's the photon guy, and then the zeronium guy.
When Geschicht is like, "Oh, you're a marvel," I think he's looking at his AI and how human Adam is, and Adam is, for all accounts, like almost completely human to the point where he can fool other robots if he really wanted to, which is a big deal in this world. I really liked him, and the little cowlick is a great adaptation of that little hair spikes he had, and he never ran around in just black underwear, and I was really thankful for that.
But he did have like the colors. If you look at the inside of his raincoat, he's got like green and black, so it still did match.
He doesn't have butt machine guns,
and he isn't fueled up through his butt either.
Yeah, so that's a shame.
Oof.
I missed out on that one. Come on, it would have been great in the middle of this emotional battle. He just turns around and guns come out of his butt. Come on, how good would that have been?
It was a different generation.
Again, it's another thing. Like, I think it's really cool of taking something that's old and probably very dated for modern sensibilities and bringing it to a more modern standpoint. Especially the OG anime. So I got a lot of respect for it, and I love that that backstory is really cool. So I liked them.
It's like when the X-Men got black outfits, and we're like, "What do you think I'm gonna wear?"
Yeah.
Blue?
And then it's 2023. Now Wolverine's gonna wear yellow and blue.
Yep.
Full circle.
Everything goes full circle.
They basically they have a discussion about, hey, you could be on the murder victim list. It could be a target, and he's like, "Can I see your memories?" Because it's like, that's really personal, but okay. And Adam uses it to review the case, but he also sees some of those other hidden nightmare memories that Kazik has, and then is also poking fun about him about his wife.
Yeah.
It's really embarrassed about that. Um, and then
Even though Atom looks like a child, like these two were in war together, and Atom didn't actually serve as far as like shooting, but like they're nearly identical as far as age.
Seems like it. I don't know when exactly they were created, but close enough probably.
Yeah, the important thing to remember is Adam was created as a child because of Tenma's tragic backstory, not because this is what age robots should be built as.
Right.
It's super messed up. We see the police investigating the crime scene through a 3D simulation, and Adam, who now has memories of the crime investigation, comes to help, and they're able to identify a business card that the victim had used, which is to Professor who we will call the Professor from this point on. He is Adam's caretaker, and also he actually took Tenma's position in the government when Tenma left. He's not as smart as Tenma, but takes care and raises Adam as a father figure.
As far as I know, from what I could tell, Atom's little sister is actually his creation.
Right, he is, because Tenma called that out. Of you did great work on
right
Iran when you built her,
and it helps to explain like why all of these robots have very different capabilities as well as psychologies. Because she's very different from Atom. Being his little sister, I kind of expected her to be more like him. She's got totally different powers and everything.
So Atom goes and talks to the professor about how he was involved with the murder victim, and we hear about the Bora fact-finding mission. They basically, in the country of Persia, there was rumors of a robot of mass destruction being built, and so all these scientists and roboticists were sent in to investigate. And according to the professor, they never found any hard evidence, but all they really found was a mountain of robot corpses. We later learned they also found the Tenma chip, so Tenma's work had somehow gotten into Persia as well. But they never found anything concrete. But then the war was started. And so a big mark in the history is that all these super robots fought in this war between what's basically their version of the United Nations versus this Persian country. And it was basically robot on robot warfare. And so all these super robots are like, man, we killed so many robots and I don't care.
I feel good about it.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, they all have very different emotions because like they have no emotions about it. They weren't mad at those robots, but they did what their job was, and then some of them went crazy.
Started washing their robot hands.
This is where the anime started to lose me a bit as well, because they were like, yeah, the not US
right
look for WMDs. I mean, robots of mass destruction, and didn't find them, but they started a war anyways. It's like, okay.
In Persia, the Middle East.
Right?
Yes. Wait till you see Darius the 14th.
We couldn't think of any other storylines. It was just this. Okay.
Yeah.
Which they really undercut with the whole teddy bear thing, though.
They did.
It's like maybe we're making a point. Are you? No, it turns out to be an evil teddy bear the whole time. I'm like, okay, maybe you didn't make a point.
Yeah, and I'm still confused about like how the teddy bear plays into things. Like, did it orchestrate everything?
Everything.
Like, and the president of Thracia was then involved in that because he was the co-conspirator for the teddy bear.
Right,
but
working. Yeah.
Like, how did they manipulate Abula? That's what confuses me, because Abula seemed to be acting on his own.
They were financing the project.
But that's enough? Okay, well, okay, now we're back. We just did a full circle.
Yeah, the whole macro storyline on this is just, some of it doesn't make sense. Some of it is like way on the nose, and it's just like, okay, like zero creativity. This is supposed to be in the future, not reliving the past.
Yeah.
The teddy bear really gets me because, like I say, everything is his machination and everything went perfectly to plan. And it's almost like one of those Emperor Palpatine where like everything went according to plan. Everything, like so many random things happen. And then so you have to explain it in Star Wars. It's always like, no, he had like 100 plans and just the right one kept working. But this is an AI who's supposed to be so advanced that he's like, no, if we put money here for a robot here, and then we send in a expedition here, and that'll start a war here, and then eventually humans dead.
Send in robots? Question mark. I am wondering if the giant machinery behind the teddy bear, like the teddy bear is just the face of it.
Oh no, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. So that, which would indicate that this is a much more powerful AI than all the other robots.
But why?
But it didn't satisfy
face?
any. Well,
Yeah.
Regardless of teddy bear, like that didn't satisfy any of the questions I had as far as like villain and like motivations and like it was kind of this out of left field, like, haha, here's your real villain with 10 minutes left in the movie. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I want to get more into it when we get there because I really want to talk about the teddy bear. There's so much there, but we'll touch on him.
I remembered the word now. It's Machiavellian. That's the
Zentai.
word.
All right.
That's the murder bodies. Machiavellian.
All right. Then we come to robot wrestling and we meet the character Brando. I'll be honest with you guys. I feel like Brando, Hercules, and Epsilon could have just been one character.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So Brando is this. He was one of the warriors in this war. He's now a robot wrestler. He's adopted a bunch of kids with his wife. And
Is she human? I couldn't tell.
does it matter? I think so, but does it matter?
It matters just in the sense of knowing like whether any of these main characters were actually married to human wives or whether they were all married to robots. Like I'm curious. I'm into the world. I'm very curious about the world building taking place. So how far have they gone? Have they actually gone to the point where, where they're like intermarrying? I wouldn't be surprised. Like if we look at even modern day stuff, there's already people that are marrying androids.
It was not called out in the anime if she was or was not, but their children were
humans. That they were orphans adopted. Yeah, for sure. Just like Epsilons. Mm-hmm.
He has basically the whole point of what's going on in this scene is like just to introduce like this is gonna be super tragic. As Gazit's like, hey, you might be a victim. He's like, oh, just tell me how I can help. I'm Brando. I never lose a fight. And then he steals.
I'm lucky.
Yeah, he steals a truck and he's like, I'm gonna go fight this thing. With his
Brando
robots.
the Thirst Mutilator. Oh, wait, that's Brando. Sorry.
And then Gazik goes and talks to Hercules, who is, I'm a big wrestler. I'm going to fight this thing, and I got a robot suit. But I haven't adopted any kids because I just get a statue.
Yep.
But while he's talking with him, Brando starts fighting what appears to be a giant black tornado in the sky. And all the robots, Adam, Gazik, and Hercules, are all patching in and sharing the data, hoping to see this thing. And Brando's like, hey, I won, but I'm dying in the water. Bye. And he dies.
Which makes zero sense.
And they think
and then after he like signs off and says, bye, I'm done. And he's like, hey, Geschicht, I'm still alive. I still got something to say to you. And then, oh, I'm dead now. Okay, bye.
For real, though, this time.
For real now.
Outcomes of this is that he said he won the fight. They think he's killed the killer. But when they Hercules pays for dragging the ocean to find body parts, and they only find the wrestling suit. They do not find any of the villain. And then they eventually find the wrestling suit's arms propped up like horns on an island. And so they know that the killer is still alive. But the Europol believes him to be dead.
I think
or wants him to be dead.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of my favorite things about Brando's whole sequence was when he was dying, he was trying to send them data, and it was instead just images of his family. And he's like, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening. I'm trying to send you the data. I don't know why this is being sent instead. And then it just all disintegrates. That was very touching. And it was also very, that's a cool thing to do with AI. To have the AI actually lose control of even the signal that it's sending because it's receiving that same overwhelming grief and like visitation to those memories that a human would experience as well. I liked that a lot.
Also in that signal was like a random image that just looks like a crack across the screen.
There's this hatred.
And all the robots are like that's despair and
Yeah, right.
and death.
Mm-hmm.
Does Pluto also hack you when he fights you? But I never saw that in the later fights when we actually get to see him. But that seems like in the tornado, for instance, when Adam dies,
Yeah.
spoilers, there's no bodily damage. It just seemed like he got overwiped. I don't know.
Well, there were some conversations about Pluto having unusual electromagnetic capabilities.
Oh, that's true.
And so, yeah, I think that was like just part of background electromagnetic waves interfering with the transmission. And that could have been also how he fought with Adam. I don't know exactly. But yeah, I bet that's part of it.
We meet so a random tornado appears in Japan. It's the killer. And it frees a bunch of zoo animals, and we see a little girl like confronting a lion because she feels their emotions. And this is Yuran. Your guys' thoughts on Yuran?
Makes sense. I don't know why she was in the story, and I didn't like her.
What didn't you like about her? Why did you hate the little girl?
Okay. I didn't hate her. I thought her performance was decent, but the problem was it's like, okay, you've got robots that are faking emotions until they make it, and now you have a girl that can. Does she have the force? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean she can feel sadness from miles away?
Right.
This is the most ridiculous power set I think I've ever heard with zero explanation. And if she's a robot, like, is human sadness now a Wi-Fi signal? Like, what is happening? This character made no sense. I liked her interaction with, spoiler alert, Pluto, when he's down in the being homeless.
We're literally 5 seconds from that. It's not that much of a spoiler.
Okay. I actually really liked that scene. It felt very reminiscent of the North 2.
Yeah. What's number 2?
Thing. Besides that, she was just a really irritating voice screaming about how people are sad, or I'm going to butt into this scene because I need to extend it. I didn't like her.
Nissan. Shouldn't say that in English dub, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Well, she was saying it a lot in the sub.
Wrong anime.
I had the same exact problems, and that's what I was hoping you would say, because I didn't want to be the only one that ranted. I really didn't. So yeah, same exact issues with her. I kind of liked just the fact that she was picking up on the animals because of proximity. But then when they said it was being she was miles away, I was like, what the heck? Because it's not smell, right? Because I thought maybe it's the pheromones given off when there's fear or something. But nope, that's not it at all. And yeah, it's just, she's really weird. Also, when I did do a little bit of like checking out afterwards with summaries and stuff of what original Astro Boy was, apparently she was a powerhouse in the original stories. Like, she would tear apart big, powerful robots, no problem. So that is kind of interesting that they chose to, seems like, completely remove her fighting ability for this retelling. It's interesting. I don't think it necessarily would have changed much story-wise. Just an interesting departure.
What's wrong, Eren? Oh, I feel disturbance in the force. I mean, in the sadness around me.
And does she feel happiness too? Like, is it only the negative emotions? This anime really focused on the negative emotions. They're like, hey, to unbalance chaos, we must introduce an unbalanced emotion let's name all the negative emotions. Can we not unbalance with love and joy and
Yeah.
no? Okay.
Yeah, exhilaration.
I did have that thought, and that's a very mature thought, Jeremy. That's good.
Thank you.
Um,
What are you trying to say
who-
about me?
you know who agrees with you guys?
Say that again.
You know who agrees with you guys?
Who?
Dr. Tenma. It's one of my favorite scenes is when he's like, "That doesn't make any sense. You can't sense emotions. That's dumb." And he just walks away.
Thank you, Dr. Tenma.
So, yeah, I guess the homeless guy scene is good. Again, could have been skipped. I mean, it gets one callback at the end. It doesn't change anything. It's not the catalyst to a change. If anything, Epsilon's scene is the catalyst to the change.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it's just her being like, there's characters out there who are sad. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, that was.
I'm glad we spent 5 minutes. I already knew that. I was at the scene 5 minutes ago. I saw them being sad. Didn't need the little girl. I get she's part of original Astro Boy, so that's why she's included. But
Yeah.
again, for this story, it's just more extra stuffing that's just not needed. It was just Thanksgiving a couple days ago for us, so
Stuffing.
stuffing's on my mind.
See what you
God,
did
I
there.
love stuffing. All right,
One more complaint.
Oh, here we
sure.
go.
She deserves it.
She deserves it.
Little monster.
How is she ignoring the sadness, pain, fear, despair of everybody else?
But not
Within
that kitten around the corner.
2 to 5 miles, right? There, except for like this boy that got bullied, a kitten. This
Well,
weird
they're not part
boy.
of the plot. These were part of the plot, so that's why she could sense
I-
them.
Yeah, right, exactly. At least Superman says, I have to shut them all out. I have to shut everybody out of my head, or else I'd go crazy, right? At least he says that. She doesn't even mention that there's other people out there that are sad that she's ignoring. I would have liked that.
All right. So after we meet his sister, she's brought to police to talk about, what happened with the animals, and Adam comes to pick her up. And at the same time, another major character enters the police headquarters to answer questions, and this is Professor Abula, who is from a very
Persia.
famous scientist from Persia, and I don't know.
Take him for a
Because he knew
robot
the murder
here, right?
victim. He's one of the people who knew the murder victims, so
Mhm.
he's there to answer questions.
And they mistake him for a robot, but then they're like, "Oh, we're sorry. Yeah, you're kidding."
So the police station has
Yeah.
these two tunnels, and robots have to walk through one, and humans have to walk through the other, and you can't walk through the wrong one, or else. It's not a metal detector, or maybe it is. Maybe it is
Yeah.
just a metal detector, and they're like,
It's an alloy
obviously you're
detector.
going to have robot metal, so you have to go to the left one. But no, because he goes through the human one, and it pings him as a robot, and he's like, "Oh, I'm super cyborg. I have
That's
a lot
right.
of cyborg parts."
But it only did it when he left.
Yeah,
didn't
it
do
only
when
did
he
it when he
came
left.
in.
With the point being, it's very hard to distinguish him. And even Adam, when he looks at him, is like, I can't figure out which one he is. But he hand waves this away with, I'm super cybernetic. Which means there are cyborgs in this world, and he's like the only one we see.
Yep.
Also, okay, if there are very cybernetic people, could they have also been the killer and leapt off of a building to another building
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep.
and not left a trace?
2077, baby.
Yep. You got it. Get those claw arms.
We need to talk about him. He's one of the major villains. He's probably the closest to the primary antagonist, although not the puppet master. But your guys' thoughts on Abula?
He served his function. I didn't really connect with him as far as his tragic backstory. It's not because his backstory isn't tragic. I think it's because of the way it was presented. I don't think it was done well as far as making him a sympathetic villain. We don't know much about him. He gives off a very villainous vibe from the moment we see him. So it's like, oh, yeah, it's obvious bad guy is bad guy. So when we do find out why he's being so awful to everyone, it doesn't hit very well for me. Even though his backstory is obviously very tragic. I thought the twist of who he really it was good. I didn't see that coming. I had suspicions, but I didn't. I thought they were really going to run with the cybernetic thing. Yeah, and I don't know. He didn't work very well for me as like the puppeteering he was doing in Pluto. So
Yeah.
and it's because they didn't sell it very well between his relationship with who
It
Pluto
was like
really
only
was.
one scene where they show him.
Yeah, it wasn't presented well, and with all of the time that they took per episode, like you couldn't
Yeah.
fit that in. You had the girl, but you didn't fit that in.
Yeah.
So
Just dump some flashbacks or something. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. He's not that interesting of a character to me. I've seen this character before many times where you just have somebody who is they're out for vengeance, they're out for blood because they've experienced loss. And yeah, you're right, it's tragic, but it wasn't even his loss. I kind of like that because that does make it an interesting twist, which he kind of goes crazy when he realizes. But it confused things for me. Like I still. So he made Sahad?
with Tenma's help, but not him.
No.
No.
Zod was made. Zod's just a
He-
regular robot
Yeah.
son.
Yep.
Oh,
He
okay,
made
yeah.
Sahad.
Yeah,
Because
it's Zod.
Tenmu made him. So, like, that's just super confusing because the whole time we're led to believe that Sahad is that perfect robot that was made by Tenmu and him, when that's not actually the case. He is, and he just made. I think it adds a layer of complexity to the story that doesn't actually.
Well, he made Sahad before he
Benefit.
was the perfect robot.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
There was a human named Abula
Sabula.
Who made
Died.
Sahad?
who made Sahad, and then Sahad found out my dad died. He went to go see his dad, and he's like, or he went back and
my
he's like,
God,
"Oh, Dad, I
you're
thought you were dead." He's like, "No,
right.
I'm cyborg now. I almost died, but
He's-
I'm a cyborg now." But
He's
it's not.
the surviving son
Yeah.
of Abula being used by this Abula wannabe. Gotcha. See? Why? That's really confusing. Maybe it could have just been a little bit more
Made
clear.
for a good twist that Abula didn't realize he was a robot. I thought that was a
Sure.
decent twist.
That's a good twist. But
You're right. It did add some layers of complexity.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that they could have maybe explained things a little bit more clearly, which is crazy because they did over explain other things. So
Right. Like I feel they say he has two personalities, right? Abula and then the original who is Gino?
Goji.
Goji, you're right. So Goji's in there too, and they both don't realize they're sharing this body and are remoting into other bodies all the time
Mhm.
without even realizing it. But I don't fully understand why Goji is in on the plan.
Yeah. He's the sage of the sands. What?
Right, but he's also the original personality in this robot that was
There is
trying
no
to
original personality. There's 9.9 billion personalities.
So Goji is that robot trying to pick a personality, and then Abula gets uploaded to him, and so Abula gets apart, and then this Goji does create finally a persona, and they share instead of just becoming Abula. The Goji thing feels really loosey goosey, and they do not take any time to really nail that down.
And they don't resolve it either. Like, Goji doesn't make an appearance, give his opinion on things, and disappear or anything like that.
Well, we got to save the zoo animals with the little girl.
Yes, exactly. Because and I understand that the whole reason she's there is to point the anime in the direction of the emotional theme. Like, let's focus on these emotions. We need to remember that it's about these emotions. So during all of these sessions, we need to make sure somebody is saying the emotion. Fear, sorrow, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, someone has to say the word. And so it's going to be someone who can read emotions. I get that, but it's annoying.
The only thing is Abula's plan, according to Abula's brain, right? Goji's plan is I'm going to destroy the world and I have to get rid of the 7 robots that could possibly stop me.
Did Goji want to do that? Why?
Yes.
Why did Goji want to kill the 7 robots?
Because he's manipulated to do so by Teddy Bear.
By the teddy bear.
When did he meet the teddy bear?
Teddy Bear's everywhere, man.
I think the teddy bear is working with Not Saddam.
Yeah, right? Darius Not Saddam? It's just
I mean, come on.
Very
Look at the way he's drawn.
No, you're not wrong.
No, you're
not
right.
at
You're
all.
right. You're right.
I think you're right. But I just find it so confusing.
I do want to say that the president of Thracia looks exactly the same in the 2003 manga. I went back and checked because I wanted to see how he was drawn
so
back then.
It's not a tall blonde man.
Yeah. Yeah, which maybe the coloring is intentional because the coloring does seem deliberate. You know, the red type, obviously. But I went back like, is it gonna be? And I've seen lots of presidents show up in anime, so it's not even that weird of a thing. I remember Read or Die, and it's a regular looking guy, but they give him a real heavy Texas drawl because Bush was president at the time, and they always made him pee his pants in that movie. Anyway, I went back to check to see if it was this an art change, but it's not. This is exactly what he looked like in 2003. But,
cool.
But that one also was like,
yeah.
But I forget where I was going with that. There was something I wanted to say about Abula. Goji and
Abula.
Yeah.
funding.
Okay. So Abula's plan though is Thracia killed my family, so I'm gonna kill the 7 robots that don't belong to Thracia at all.
Right.
As revenge against Thracia. And Thracia, we find out, is like, do it. We don't have a robot, and we don't want anyone else to have one. So, Abula's plan sucks. Goji's plan makes a lot of sense. I gotta, these guys could stop me, wipe them out. Maybe Abula's just not realizing he's being manipulated. Or clearly, to some level, that's true. But it just
Why did they have to name it the United States of Thracia?
I know.
It's like, so the not USA of Thracia.
Every other country
to war with
not
Iran.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess.
And imprisoned not Saddam.
Yes.
It's like, okay.
It's very on the nose.
It's 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite is the guy that hates a group of individuals so much he wants to murder them is named Adolf.
Yes. Oh my god, that crack. He's got the same haircut too. He just didn't have the mustache.
One thing the anime changed, I actually read it because I was looking for really anything that they did. In the manga, those white robed guys have pointy hats.
No.
No.
So that one they edited for the anime to make it a little less subtle.
God. That is so funny.
Yeah, we're not even to the sister Abula. Yeah, we were talking about Abula. We're moving on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say my final conclusion there is that I still don't understand why Goji was doing it versus why Abula was doing it. Why they both wanted their different reasons for destroying the 7 robots. I don't really understand. I understand Abula's. I don't understand Goji's.
Goji's might be closer tied to that. Those were the 7 that fought the war, and so he wants to get back at the ones that destroyed his town and killed his family.
That would
or
be
at least
Abula.
he blames them for that.
That would be Abula, though.
Oh yeah, you're right. That would be Abula.
Yeah. Also,
but Goji still lived in Persia, didn't he?
No. So here's the issue that I think the core of the issue is this robot. Let's just call the robot Goji, right? The robot has a towel on its face or a sheet on its face. It doesn't wake up until Tenmu inserts that chip with Abula's memories.
Right.
Only at that point does it choose a face and wake up. So it never picked Goji. And I believe they actually state that Goji was came into existence afterwards because Abula needed a scientist, a genius scientist to make these things or something.
Okay, so the whole
It's super confusing.
I mean, here's the big reveal. The whole a scientist Abula is trying to make a robot that can terraform Persia.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't figure it out. That's why all the dead bodies are. They're all prototypes he's made that suck. And so he's like, what I need is the perfect robot scientist to help me.
Yes.
Dr. Tenma, help me
Right.
build this robot scientist. Tenma's like, I got this great idea. It's going to be great. But the robot won't wake up because it's too good. And then so when Abula dies, his memories are loaded into it. And then, like I said, it finally wakes up as Abula. But there was a robot in there that was trying to choose a personality. And I would think, well, that means it has chosen Abula's.
Yeah,
But
that's where my mind went.
That was the
But they
implication.
clearly state there's two personalities. So it's
Mhm.
Abula and another one. It did finally choose a second personality, which I think is also still very fluid.
So
Like he can
that
become-
implies,
Adam.
spoilers. Adam is now going to eventually choose another personality as well.
It should be Geshik. It should be a Geshik and Adam. Parallel personalities in him. And his face should change. I wonder if he'll get taller too. Or if he'll be a chibi version of.
Should move on.
All right. Kazit wants to go on a vacation with his wife. When they go to book the trip, he's like, I need to register my wife for travel. And they're like, no, you already did. 3 years ago, you guys were going to take a trip to Japan. They're like, no, did we? And then they go and they look at a bunch of photographs of a trip they did take, but there's a ton of photographs. And they're like, we don't like taking pictures. What is going on here? So they're very confused. Well, then we have a copycat killer murder scene, but when Gazik goes there, the cop's like, oh yeah, we worked that case together 3 years ago. And he's like, what case 3 years ago? What is that going on? Yeah, and just, again, we're hinting at the same thing twice, like back to back.
So
you can just do it once. Just do it once.
Well, there is, okay, maybe I'm just being confused again here, but if you tell me there's an awful lot of pictures of this trip, this seems weird, then that implies you didn't take the trip. Somebody's
Right.
faking the pictures.
Right.
But then you go, where did he go?
To the crime scene, which he solves right away. He's like, this
Where
is a
is the crime
copycat
scene?
killer. It's in, I don't know what country.
I thought it was
I thought they're in Germany, right?
is it in Germany?
Or somewhere in Europe.
It's in
Oh,
Europe,
okay.
not Japan.
Okay, so it's not in Japan. Okay, then yeah, it's the same thing. Cool.
I think the only thing that this is establishing is that because the cop gets a weird face on his oh, I've revealed something I'm not supposed to. I think they're just kind of dipping their hand in, there's a conspiracy here and some people know about it and they're not supposed to say anything.
Europol's not covering it up well enough.
Gazik
Guy should have been relocated into a different job, different district.
Kazik brings this up with his creator, Professor Hoffman, who then goes and asks Kazik's boss about the memories, and the guy's like, "Don't ask questions, just fix them." So we definitely did this.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, no denial whatsoever.
Is this guy the president of Thracia? He looks like the president of Thracia.
No, he's not.
He looks so much like him.
I think he's the CEO of Interpol.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't have a CEO of a police force. It's not a private company. I don't know. Okay.
No, the Interpol is a private corporation. They're not government run.
Europol. It's
yeah,
Europe.
Europol.
Europe's in the name. I kind of figured it was government.
Yeah, but so is Washington Federal Bank. They're not
Wait,
federalized.
in real life, is
True.
Interpol private or government?
That's a good question.
They're a police
Does it matter?
force. They have powers. Yes. No, it doesn't. But I don't think they're run by a CEO. Is all I think.
Okay. Well, maybe he's a government official.
Yeah, it's an international criminal police organization.
It's Europol, not Interpol.
It's a fake version.
All right, then we jump to Adolf's story. So Adolf is this guy who don't like robots too much, and he had a super horrible. Well, he didn't have a super horrible dad. He had kind of a beatnik dad, a guy who stole something from a
Soccer
kid
ball.
to give his kids. Yeah, but then was arrested by a robot and ruined his life. And then his brother was horrible though, and they talk about. They don't specify what he did, but they're like, your brother was sick. He was a sick man. He's dead. He got what he deserved, and he finally is getting to pick up the body 3 years later, coincidentally. And when he does, he brings it to like a doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, this is not like, he wasn't like just shot. He was like splattered. He was
It's not regular bullets.
blown up by a robot's rocket arm.
Yes.
This is all leading to, and he's like, hey, he goes to this anti-robot cult that hates robots. He's like, hey, Gazik killed my brother, and they're like, oh, that's great. We're gonna ruin his reputation. This is gonna be perfect. We can use this to manipulate stuff. And he's like, yeah, okay, I think I'm gonna go kill him instead. So he goes like and buys rocket gun from black market to kill him. Then we
Ku Klux Klan of robots.
Yes, basically. That's exactly what they are.
Then we meet Epsilon because he shows up to talk to Hercules because he's like, Hercules, don't you fight that evil robot. But Epsilon becomes a little bit longer lasting of a character, so I wanted to get your thoughts on him, especially because he was a robot who's like, I'm a pacifist in the war, but so he had to help with the cleanup efforts instead of the war.
You mean
and then
not Jesus?
Purple hair.
The parallels are just dumb. It's like, oh, I can float into the sky. I radiate light. I save the children. I mean, come on. I use protection magic by ripping my hats off.
Wait, Jesus used protection magic and is from Australia?
Yes.
I don't know if all these things
I
are
actually
the
like
same.
that. I like that lore better. No, I'm just saying, like, the parallel, like, he's got long hair, he's thin, like, he's a pacifist. He just, like, all the parallels are just kind of on the nose. But anyways.
I didn't see this one. I was with you with all the others. I didn't see this one.
I mean, come on. He can fly and he radiates light.
Maybe if he like always flew with his arms out to the sides, like a T-pose.
It's really you're like long hair beatnik.
I thought his character was fine. For like, I liked playing the other side of the aggression, right? Like, he was there to protect and to not attack. And I liked his little story of saving the boy before like annihilating an entire city. I think the things I didn't quite like about him were his end fight before his death, which I thought was really dumb. And then also
because he's powered by the sun.
Oh, don't even get me started on the stupidity
like Jesus
of this.
was.
Okay, but if you're gonna tell me that Superman's not an allegory for Jesus, I mean, come on.
Not originally. I know that's been done, but it's not a constant. Not.
That's true. No, he was fine for what he served. Like I said, I liked a lot of the scenes with him. I just thought that, again, they're just kind of breaking their own rules with this guy.
The biggest issue that I had with this guy was he's so powerful, but just his regular day-to-day operations can only last for like 3 days if there's clouds in the sky.
Come on, Australia, he's fine.
What in the world? I absolutely abhor the limitations that are imposed on him. Like, basically, he has no capacitors, no batteries. He's just entirely like throughput of whatever energy he gets from the sun. Either that or his system just uses so much of the energy for day-to-day operations that it's just astronomical, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, none of the other androids have that problem. So
Exactly. So it must mean that Dr. Holland or whatever his name is that built him, like, used the shoddiest techniques of energy management. He's like, I got so much, I don't have to worry about. There is a parallel in development, whereas languages and processing move faster and faster, you get sloppier and sloppier code.
I found this Tesla in the garbage. Let's use these batteries.
Exactly. This will work. So that bugged the heck out of me. Another thing that bugged me was he threw his hands down and created a shield with his hands. So does that mean that he had enough energy, like, just in the hands? Is that where the capacitors were, is in the hands? Or was he electromagnetically pulsing it down there? Why did they stick around after he died? Why did they fall down after the boy reached out and touched them? Why was the boy able to touch them? The hands were on the other side of a shield. I fully expected the shield to be there for like a week, because the hands would keep getting powered by the sun, and so then they would all starve and dehydrate inside of there because they couldn't leave. It just not to mention the whole
He's
pacifism.
rubbing him on his face.
I know, it's so gross. But still, like, I get it. They're like pulling for the heartstrings and everything. The whole pacifist thing was also just like, I understand pacifism, but even for him, when they came for his kids, he kind of dropped the pacifism. But then he didn't. He went back to the pacifism. He went back to, like, I'm going to preserve you. You're sad. I can feel that you're sad. You want to kill my kids. You want to kill me. You want to kill everybody. But that's okay. That's okay. I want to keep you. Oh, God, I hate that. I just hate that kind of character in the storytelling. So he rubbed me the wrong way. I'll say that.
Wow.
I did not like this guy.
I mean, none of that was true. The guy.
What do you mean?
Literally, Pluto was protecting the kid. Did not want to kill the kid at all.
No, that was that time. What about the tornado at the kid's house that was busting glass? Those kids should be shredded. There was glass all over the floor around them, and they were like being blown all over the place, and the glass didn't cut them? Bull. That's garbage.
Okay, that's not the situation he was in, because at the time he's fighting the guy. He's not trying to kill his son, and Pluto doesn't even want to kill him.
It's too late. Pluto tried to kill them. That tornado was right there at that glass building. It's too late, man. He's done. Pluto is out.
The whole point of Pluto is that he's like a wild animal, and it's not his fault. He is driven crazy by what's being pushed him, and that the actual real him, when in control, is not a killer at all. And that these robots are realizing, oh, this isn't actually a killer, and so I'm not murdering him.
Right, but what do you do with a rabid dog? Just because someone's wild and murderous, but they're not, if they were in their right mind, they wouldn't be.
As a pacifist, I don't know. I guess that would be up to them.
Ugh, no, I can't stand it. I completely disagree with Epsilon, and he drives me nuts.
Look, I'm not a pacifist myself, but I can at least respect that they stick to their values, and when push comes to shove, if they stick to their values, I respect them even more.
Values lead to your death. I don't think they're very good values.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Whoa! You can't just say other people's values are bad.
I can say that I completely disagree with them.
Absolutely. That's not what Jason just said.
Oh, okay.
They were bad. I said they're not very good in comparison.
Oh, no.
There's a strong line there, Troy.
Saying values that lead to your continued existence are objectively better than values that lead to your death. That was my clarification of that statement.
I gotta agree with that one.
That is not a 100% true statement. There's no way that's true.
Well, I mean, it's sort of an objective truth, but there are other factors to consider.
If you're saying that your goal is living, then yes, that would be true. But if your goal is not to live, then sure, that's not true.
No. There's 1,000 random circumstances, contexts you could create where you would literally sacrifice yourself for something else because of your values.
Sacrificing yourself is not the situation we're talking about here, though.
Yes, it is for your values. I value something,
Epsilon was
willing to die
clearly
for it.
stronger than Pluto.
Yes, he could have killed
He
him.
proved it in multiple situations, but because of his values, he dropped his guard. That was not sacrifice. That was dumb.
That was choosing his values over his life. Yes.
Dumb. I agree.
In my opinion, I could be wrong.
Oh, in your opinion.
Just
Right.
add it at the end.
Right?
Fight me in the comments.
Just yeah, that's right. Just tagging that at the end.
You wanted a hot take? There's your hot
Yeah.
take.
Like I said, I'm myself not a pacifist. I just, if that is your thing, that's fine. I have no issues with anybody else's values. I don't know where we are. My notes are really intense, guys. There's so much, and we're not even on episode 4.
We just met Epsilon.
And
Yeah.
we hate him already. At
Yeah.
least I do.
Oh, I never got to say what I thought about Epsilon.
Oh yeah.
I liked him better than Bruno and Hercules. I felt that he worked better in the I have children and there's a cost to me dying, which it helps inspire Adam later, so it does serve a purpose in the story. I thought he worked better than those two. His powers were weird and kind of random.
Mm.
I'll give you that. I also had the thought of how long are they going to be stuck in that shield?
Yeah. Right.
That thought did hit me. To be fair. Okay. Adolf buys his weapon. Gesich meets with Epsilon, talks about the same stuff they already have with other people, and then we have Uran finding a homeless robot, and nursing him back to health and giving him paint, and he paints a field of flowers, which is a recurring motif around the character of Pluto. And this guy's like, hey, look, I can regenerate flowers. And he can. And then eventually Adam finds out about this guy. There's this whole long, again, like a 20-minute segment. But eventually Adam and the police show up to grab this guy because they realize he is dangerous. And then he suddenly just collapses. After seeing Adam and getting upset, he collapses. And this construction robot's like, hey, that's my day body when I'm not working.
He's destroying the road and the bridge. Like, this construction robot is climbing over things and breaking them to find his body.
It's also insane he showed up right then. Like, hey, I just happened to be wandering by and see you guys playing with my body down there.
Is this the first time where we see the robot cockroaches scatter?
Yeah. So Abula has his henchman, who is a robot who can spit out cockroaches, and they serve his purpose, searching for Pluto. And we think, because they did see this homeless guy, we're like, oh, that's Pluto. And it is Pluto, but it's, again, not the right body. Well, he actually found the real body, which is hiding in the river. And then Abula's like, hey, Pluto, time to wake up, time to go back to work. Because Pluto was hurt after fighting Bruno and wanted to go hide for a while.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting that when Bruno gets into his suit, it's his entire head that gets put in. Same with Hercules. So sometimes the AI module is the whole head, and sometimes it's just like this DVD player that goes in the back of your neck.
That's page episode 4. We almost to the halfway point.
Yeah.
Longer.
Okay, we get the professor, and he finds this little robot dog, and he tries to fix it, but he can't. And when the owner shows up to claim it, it's actually Goji sneaking in. And he's like, hey, I want you to send Astro Boy Adam to go fight Pluto, and we sent Pluto to go kill your grandson if you don't. And then Adam saves the professor, and then he goes off. Uran also shows up at the grandson's house, but then Adam does, and he's instantly defeated. And so the world is shocked, but it gives the implication that Adam is kind of a superhero of this world, so, a superhero has died.
This world just needs to really help people understand that when there's a tornado, you get away from the windows. It's like this is the second house where there's a child that won't leave the window when there's a tornado outside. Just like you shred it, man. It's a blender. Ugh.
The the anti-robot cult decides that Adolf is going to ruin their plan, so they decide to kill him, and they fail to get him in a car bombing. And then Gasich, who's about to leave on a vacation with his wife to Japan, gets both stories at the same time. They hear about the car bombing, and he hears about Adam dying, and he goes a little berserk for a moment, and then wakes up back in his scientist diagnostic lab, getting tests done. And he's put right back on the job. He's sent to protect Adolf as his protector, which is kind of
what we know later on that makes zero sense. Like, why would the uppers, like any of Europol,
they have a
allow
conversation
this?
about it. We see them like, is this a good idea? He's like, no, this is a great idea. This is the best idea I've ever had.
It's just, if you're looking for risk management here, this is the worst decision ever. But anyways,
There are better things he could be assigned to right now, such as tracking down the
vacation.
murderer. Or vacation. Yeah.
Oh yeah, to Jason's point, like if this is exposed, this is a major blow to robot rights and what the robot world, and they're like, yes, put them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
While at Adolf's business, he's like, hey, yeah, my company also happens to do like prison cameras, and we have prison cameras of Darius, the former leader.
Basically in Gitmo.
Yeah, basically in Gitmo. And he's listing the names of the scientists who are being murdered. And because it's like, okay, maybe you should have mentioned that from the beginning. So they take him into protective custody, and they're like, it could be the evil cult you're part of, or it could also be the people who follow the Persian president. So they take him to a safe house, but on the way, they stop at a restroom, and this little bathroom robot's like, kill Gazik, or we'll get your family. And then he beats it with a stick and kills it, because you can do that in this world, guys.
With a piece of wood.
Yeah. These robots are so flimsy.
This is a little bathroom robot. He's probably made of plastic, guys.
I'll give you that.
Maybe. I still want to complain, though.
Dr. Hoffman is attacked. This is a physics creator, and Epsilon saves him and flies him all the way to Hercules in Greece. Oh, and Hoffman talks about when he met Dr. Tenma, and he's like, yeah, me, the guy who created Epsilon, and Dr. Tenma all met. We were like, hey, let's build a super awesome robot. And Tenma like looked at their ideas like, I'm taking those, and making the perfect robot was stupid because that would be like the worst robot ever, and he leaves. And then we find out, then goes and tries to build the damn thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't share his notes. Like, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Adolf is like, hey, robot cop, you killed my brother. Which, because it's like, I did?
Oh,
Don't
yeah. I guess I did.
Yeah. They go to the safe house, and then Gazik leaves, and he goes to talk to Brow, the evil Dr. Lecter robot, and he's like, oh, you're like me. We're killers.
How does Brown know about this?
Brown knows everything.
Apparently.
I was wondering that too. It's so funny because he's like, oh, I've been cooped up in here and I'm not able to move, so my sensors have become more sensitive. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
No, they're only going to degrade because they're not being serviced.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they were trying to use that old saying that, like if you lose one of your senses, your remaining senses become more sensitive. But that's a biological system, and it doesn't work that way for a machine. It's just crazy. But then again, he does free himself later, so maybe he was doing
Or was he let out?
Maybe.
I have thoughts on that. We're going to talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
Hercules fights Pluto, and he loses twice, technically, because he lost in the fighting body and then sent his real body in and loses in that
Yep.
too. Epsilon recorded it but runs away. And then Gazik remembers that he murdered a man. And then he goes back to the safe house. And they're chased by assassins from this evil cult. And he ends up saving the whole family. Their car blows up, but he's able to save everyone. And he stops the anti-tank round or whatever they're firing that can kill him.
This scene was cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I really liked this scene. Because not only does he protect him with his, like, he can't take a direct hit, but apparently like a glancing hit he can take. And so he shoots the rocket out of the air with his own rocket. Like, that's that.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat.
It
That is
does
cool.
damage him, though, so he's pulled away. And as he's leaving, he asked Adolf, do you ever learn to live with this hate? Like, does it ever go away? You know, asking the guy who clearly hates him. And that comes back later in a great scene where Adolf is like, I don't want to hate you anymore. Then Tenma, Dr. Tenma, who is voiced by Craig, I had his name earlier.
Goliath.
Goliath from Gargoyles. He's the president in Rick and Morty. He is one of the greatest voices of all time. I love that he was here.
Glad you could remember his name.
Heath David. Heath
Davis?
David.
David.
Yeah. We're going to pretend I'm right there. He basically comes, he's like, I'm just here to say goodbye to my robot. And then he's like, I'm going to fix you. He starts working on Adam's brain. And then he tells the story to the professor that, yeah, I once came up with the idea for the perfect robot brain where I put every human personality on the planet into it at the same time. And then they could just pick whoever it wants to be. But there was too many choices. The processing took too long, so it could never wake up. But I figured out there would be a shortcut if you just introduced pain and suffering to it. Then that would cut through the chaos and it would finally settle. But most likely would come out a monster killer robot.
So
And
He didn't say most likely. He said that there was a potential.
okay, sure.
yeah, it's possible. Yeah. So how did he get the personalities to put them in there?
Programmed them by hand.
9.9 billion. Do you know how
He
long
did
that
it.
would take?
You know how
Well, it was when he was an intern.
he
He had a
downloaded
whole
Facebook.
summer.
Do you know how long it would take to input, even if it's just a single button press? 9.9 billion.
Troy, what happened next?
This is so ridiculous.
Gazik goes to visit
And why 9.9 billion?
Saddam Hussein, who bites
Just
through
because
his
that's
tongue.
how many people are here, does that mean that's how many personalities there are? No. What about the personalities of people that were here or will be here? They will be different too. Why not
And
20
then
billion?
Epsilon visits him at the prison and is like, hey, I have a picture of a guy that he got from the fight with Hercules in the data stream. And this is Pluto's real true self.
Sahad. Yeah.
Sahad. Yeah, but he don't know that yet. So
Oh,
Gazik goes to
Up to this
Persia.
up to this point, we still haven't seen Pluto, right?
Right.
No, he's just a silhouette.
Yeah, silhouettes. So Gazit meets with Abula after talking with a little orphan flower boy robot. But then he meets with Abula.
Muhammad
and-
Ali.
Yeah, that's right.
What a name. That was great.
He basically interrogates him. Abula's like, "Yeah, no, I'm just looking for peace." He's like, "Well, do you know the man in this picture?" He's like, "No, I don't." He's like, "Oh, you are human because you've lied to me. You've been caught in a lie. You're free to go." And then the little robot boy's like, "That's Sahad. He went on to become a scientist. I want to study and learn about stuff too." And he became a flower scientist. I know that's not the right name.
Botanist.
His again, this was very similar to what they were trying to create with the giant robot. Is they were this guy wanted to terraform Persia into a field of flowers. That was his whole goal. And he went to Switzerland, Greenland, Iceland, he went somewhere. Yeah, somewhere up there. Yeah, and so
Amsterdam. It was somewhere near Amsterdam, so wherever that is.
Sure. Gazich goes there, talks to his landlady, his school professor and the flower girl and learns that they created a tulip that kills all of their tulips around it but can't be killed itself. And they named the tulip Pluto. Bum, bum, bum.
Not the Philosopher's Stone.
Why are you like this?
I don't know. It happens.
I didn't even realize the tulip killed all the others. But that does make sense now.
Well, never mind. I'm not going to ask. Keep moving.
Yeah. Then Gazit goes back to Brow, and Brow's like, the tulip!
Yeah.
So he goes to where the tulip is, and that's Pluto's secret base. Yeah. And at the same time, Professor Hoffman, again, Gazit's creator, he's attending a robot conference because, yeah, there's a murder on the loose, but we should go visit stuff. He's got a robot bodyguard. He'll be fine. And Abula confronts him and is like, you suck. You were part of that Bora Nanu fact-finding mission, and I don't
Deep cut.
and I don't like you.
Robin Williams makes an appearance.
Yeah, I mentioned Happy Days like a couple episodes back, and you were like, I don't know what that is. Now you get it. Whatever.
I watched a lot of Nick and Morty.
Yep.
Mork and Mindy?
Mork and Mindy. Which I didn't realize that was a spin-off of
Happy Days. That was
Nor
great.
I.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay.
Very relevant to the anime.
Took me off the rails. Okay. So there's two things that happen simultaneously. Hoffman is attacked by his own bodyguard robot, who's
Hulk's out.
actually being controlled by someone
Cockroach
else.
Man.
Cockroach Man. And the police are like, we're gonna rescue you. We're gonna get him, but actually we just want to kill the robot and not save Hoffman. Who cares about that guy? He sucks. He's got a terrible haircut. And Gazit is going into Pluto's base of operations. It was in the Field of Flowers, and he's like getting calls, and they're like, "No, Hoffman's fine." He's like, "Okay, thank you." And then he finds Pluto, and he's like, "You're under arrest." And Pluto's all getting mad. He's like, "Sahad," and then Pluto turns back into Sahad, and he's just a nice guy in a giant evil robot body. So he's like, "Well, not killing him." And Europol is like, you have to. It's like, no, actually, I think I quit. And you lied to me about Dr. Hoffman because I can access any camera anywhere.
Uh-huh. Just like Bo.
But I can be
It's like
distracted by
Murderbot.
a small thing moving and never mind.
Uh-huh.
And then, and so the way this all works is they offer to trade hostages. So Gazix just leaves, and Hoffman is left alive. And then when the police come, of course, Pluto's already gone. But Gazix calls his wife. He's like, let's take that trip, baby. I'm going to give you the biggest death flag you've ever seen in your whole life, baby. I love you so much. Let's adopt kids. I can make any plans you want, baby, because I got about 5 minutes left.
That's right. Exactly.
And he goes around like talking to the people he already interviewed, like saying, hey, Sahad's still alive. Just wanted you to know because you seem like friends of his. And then the little robot kid from Persia is there in Amsterdam with the anti-Gazik gun in his arm. And he shoots Gazik and kills him and then claps.
In the chest, not the head.
Yep.
The chest.
Nope.
We can bring back Adam, but we can't fix Gazik. That's fine.
What did him
most interesting character in the entire anime. That's fine.
I'm sensing this has made you bitter, Jason.
This is the dumbest scene.
Wait. Oh, let's talk about it. But I just want to say, his wife goes to Japan, makes a really racist comment about how everything smells like soy sauce.
I love that. I love it so
and then
much.
gives Gazik's memory chip to Dr. Tenma, who's going to use it on Adam. And then he tells her to cry to help her deal with her emotions. It's the end of that episode. Jason, tell us how you feel about Gazik dying.
I already did. It's the dumbest scene in this entire anime. There were they were trying to do a setup, but they did a really poor job with it. They used a really contrived setup for it. Like, how did that kid even get there?
Abula.
Cockroach Man, yeah.
Oh, from Persia.
All right, I have something I want to
Got on a
about.
plane. Did this little kid?
This isn't
Probably a
running
private
forever
jet.
or anything.
Yeah.
I have something I want to complain about.
Yes, do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Gazik, when he was driving to the safe house, drove on these long winding roads, and then when he left, turned into a rocket car and flew for like 2 minutes straight into
Oh
the
my
city,
God, you're right.
and then drove back.
Yep.
The
That bugged me too.
he has a flying car that can get to like across the ocean as needed. Robots can, and like Adam can fly across a continent. It's not a big deal to fly places. So I'm not
That's the
worried
one.
about a robot showing up from Persia. He got to Amsterdam in 5 minutes, Gazik. But he also sometimes drives on the long, winding roads. And like when they're being chased by an evil killer assassin van,
Yeah,
he
can
could have
just
just
go.
flown away.
You're
That
absolutely
doesn't
right.
make any sense.
No. Maybe humans can't handle the G-force. It was his passengers.
Sorry, but this was a half broken robot boy that we saw once, and he's got rocket feet like Adam does. I don't think so.
No, he was definitely delivered. Definitely delivered by Abula or Cockroach Man.
And controlled by Cockroach Man.
And controlled by Cockroach Man. Which means Cockroach Man was just watching to see who Gazik interacted with. And when he saw that it was this kid, he's like, I'm just going to use this kid because that's going to be great. He's got a weakness for the kid.
The
But
kid's already got a missing arm. I can just put the rocket launcher
that's right.
right there.
This is very convenient. But I will totally agree.
I know I know this is supposed to be a reflection and like a using his weakness to drop his guard because it looks just like his dead robot kid. It just the payoff was not there. Like the setup was just not done well.
So okay, because there's two things that are happening here. Did they not do the technical death good enough for you, or are you just mad that? Secondly, the character leaving the story.
Yes,
Both. You're upset with both.
But well, they've broken quite a few rules with this. Like one, how did the kid get there? There's no and why did it have to be the kid? Yeah, I understand it. The reflection of his dead kid could have been anyone else. It even could have been the Cockroach Man himself. They didn't hit him in the head. They hit him in the chest. We've established that AIs can be replaced. And now we're just going to take his chip and insert it into Adam and take out the most interesting character within the entire story. Okay, great. Not happy.
I don't think most of those are rules that were broken. But I do see where you're coming from, where like a lot of it is implied, such as, for instance, how did the kid get there? That's all implied. They don't tell us. But there's certainly justifications. Like there's ways that the kid could get there. I could see it happening. The bad guy could do that.
I mean, characters have been fast traveling this series nonstop. He's in a different country every scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like he visits
He's
Rao
also
like 10 times.
He's funded and backed by a government agency. He's also a super
Kid was
robot
sent
of
by
mass
Persia.
destruction.
Yeah, this kid wasn't operating on his own. It would be Abula's resources that would get him here.
Okay.
Who just went from Hercules' funeral to the scientist thing to get at Professor Hoffman, like in the same day. Like, fast travel's a thing.
But I do think I agree with you that like it feels contrived. It feels like the story is trying to cram a theme into this moment. It's trying to cram it's got to be the child because we have to find a weakness and we want to bring it back to the emotion. We want to bring it back to the connection. And so,
cheap.
Yeah, it feels like a cheap way to reinforce that message. So I agree. It's not. I don't think it's done well.
I like the death,
but but
technical issues aside, I like what it did and the purpose it serves in the story. I like the twist of, hey, this main character is not our surviving hero. It's very Noor. It's super Noor.
Yeah, but they replaced it with a worse character.
They're the Astro Boy.
Well,
it's reality though.
I do also want to say that it's very interesting that this anime draws a distinction between the person and the memories, which is really cool because that's always something that's kind of up for debate, right? Do the memories make the person? And in this, it's clearly the processing methodology that's developed that makes the person, and the memories are just data that gets funneled into the processing. So like if you pump the data from Geschicht into Atom, that doesn't mean Atom is Geschicht. it means that his memories are processed through Adam's methodology, his funnel, and I kind of like that. It's pretty cool seeing them very distinctly represented that way.
And, okay, so little side tangent. Gishik's kid in his flashback. Was it just me, or did anyone else get like horror movie vibes when that thing was like walking at them? Like that was terrifying.
Yes.
That wasn't.
No, not at all.
That thing's gonna go murder someone.
I got Johnny Five is alive, some short circuit looking face there, but no, it looked like a disabled child trying to walk.
Ooh, I didn't get that
not
vibe.
with that robot face.
Right.
I did also get short circuit face vibes from it, but one of the things that just really confused me, and this is just in general when it comes to like the whole adoption process for the robots, is like, what was this robot before it was adopted? Before it was in the trash pile, what was this robot? What purpose did it serve? What was its memory? What was its personality?
I also like that. I had
No,
the
it
thought
died.
they named it, and it didn't go. I'm like 6 years old. I have a name, guys.
Exactly. Right. Instead, the first things it says are Mama and Papa,
Mama.
and I'm like, this robot had a purpose. This robot did something. What is going on here? Does everybody just be like, oh, I'm going to role play now. I'm going to be a baby. I don't get it.
That's fair. We have to move on. I did for the story purposes though. Gazik and his wife had found this kid in the trash. He was there for a crime he was stopping. Paid $500 for it. Brought it home. Like, this is our kid now. But the thing was, it was him learning to understand, like, loving something more than the world itself. Because he saw a father hug his son and say, "I care more about you than the whole world." And he's like, "Why would you say that? Why would someone say that?" And then he brings his kid home, and now he suddenly understands that feeling. We find out Adolf's brother, who was a serial robot kid killer, killed Gizik's kid, and that's why Gizik murdered him back.
And developed hate.
Also, why didn't they fix the kid's arm?
Let's move on.
Robot. They could just buy a replacement. He works for Europol. He must get a good wage. God.
So we get Epsilon's story. He basically gets a bodyguard, and like, we have to move you to a safe house. He's like, "Well, it's actually my birthday, so I'm gonna party here with he's like, my kids are throwing me a surprise party because he adopted a bunch of kids after the Persian War, and they do throw him a surprise party. But then he goes to the safe house, and then
so is acting surprised lying?
Actually, yes, and also he can lie. They clearly say if you have advanced enough AI, you can lie.
Is faking lying?
Yes.
So pretending to be a human is lying?
Yeah, sure.
But robots can't lie.
You know what? I don't care, Jim.
Every stinking robot in this show is lying every day.
The video's not at this, but our recording time is out to 3 hours. So, maybe write these down. Send them to one of the most famous manga creators ever, and be like, "I have issues."
I'm sorry, but they're lying.
No, lying is the act of deception in order to deceive those around you. Practicing,
you can lie to yourself. They specifically state even lying to yourself.
Practicing something that you're not good at is not lying.
No, that's not true. They're pretending to do things that humans do, like pretending to have emotions they don't have.
Talking about something that's important. There's this scared, emotionally scarred kid from Persia that's there, and he's like always saying Bora Bora, and then he sings like this haunted Bora song,
Borat.
And then all the kids are like, "That song's great, Bora Bora, gonna murder the earth," dancing around him as he's like huddled in the corner. It was so messed up.
The scene was really messed up.
They're like, "Your song is so awesome," and he's just like, "We're all gonna die."
Like the song of everybody dying.
Anyway, the tornado comes to them, and a super weapon blast from the sky at where Epsilon's safe house, and it kills all the humans but none of the robots. And so Epsilon flies back with his bodyguard, whose name is Hogan. He's just like a nice guy who's there to make sure humans don't die when Epsilon's dying. And he flies into the evil tornado and he wins, but he tears off Pluto's arm, and it looks like he wins, but Pluto runs away, and we find out later he let him go. He's actually questioned about it and in front of a government panel, and at the same time, these people come to his orphanage and are like, we're adopting the Bora kid, and because we can. And the nannies don't stop him, so they take this kid, and then the guy's like, instantly, I hate you, kid. I hate you more than anything I've ever hated in my entire life. I can't even walk down this hallway with you without insulting you right now. Even though I'm 5 seconds away from handing you off, I have to let you know I cannot stand the sight of you. Anyway, there's the villain. You go in there. I'm out of the story.
Yep.
Abula is the one who actually has adopted him because he had seen the Bora robot, and he wants to cover it up and draw Epsilon there. Which works. Epsilon and his bodyguard come to fight, and then Epsilon, he's first losing because it's dark, and then the sun comes up and he starts to win, and Pluto's like, yeah, do it. Kill me. End this. This sucks. And he sees Sahad, and he's like, look, we'll get you back in your body. We'll get your life back. Just let me help you. And then...
How about you bite my head off?
And then Bora shows up, and Pluto goes crazy again and bites off his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've discussed that to death.
Yep. Ba-dum-bum.
Okay.
Yep.
So who launched the laser beam from space to blow up the fortress? Were we supposed to believe that was the giant baby Bora?
That's gotta be Bora.
Fascinating.
I have no idea how Bora works or why he had a space laser.
Yeah, I mean, it's a giant baby, so I don't understand how it got above them either.
See, I saw a tardigrade. The baby makes way more sense.
Yeah. Tardigrade would be interesting, though.
They could survive the lava, I think. Maybe. I don't know.
They can handle really crazy temperatures. Yeah.
All right. That happens. He's dead. Adam wakes up, partially because of this event, but also because he's had Zik's minds put into him, and then this wave of emotional sadness hits him, and he wakes up, and he's crazy now. They have him locked up. Oh, and then we get the scene where we're fully revealed. This is episode 8. Reveal the puppet master behind everything, and his name is Roosevelt, the evil AI from.
You kidding?
Teddy Roosevelt?
I just
from the United States. So see, this was all his plan.
Wow.
Everything, the war, everything he was behind, all of it. And him and the president are like, oh, 7 super robots dead. Now we're not the only ones that don't have one. Yay! Adam is kept in confinement, and then he starts drawing calculations for an anti-proton bomb to destroy the world. Tenma goes and visits with Brow. And Brow's like, ooh, I knew you were coming, Professor. They talk about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Adam escapes. And then this is where he picks up the snail. He gets to see Zik's last memories, which is really going to decide if he becomes an evil monster or remains a good guy. And he sees that at Zik's last moments, he chose to not hold on to the hate, not be mad at the person killing him. He even says the line, this will just keep going. So he gave away the hate, and so Adam is okay, and he turns back into his old self. And then Tenma is abducted by Abula, and he's like, hey, I want to show you Borat, my favorite movie. I show you the robot Bora, and he's like, I want you to put my brain in it. He's like, that's not something I need to do because you're actually a robot. The robot that never woke up, we've already gone kind of explained this. Robot that never woke up, they put the real Abula into him, and so now he is both Goji and Abula. And so yeah, he just like, oh, okay, cool. Well, he goes crazy and then jumps over into Bora and dives into the lava. And this weather bot is like, hey, I figured out the world's about to end because of the lava in this national park and this bomb that the robot has. And he tells the president. So the president runs over to Teddy Roosevelt and is like, hey, this wasn't part of the plan. And he's like, actually, it was part of the plan. Die, humans, die. You're gonna be my slave.
Yep.
Evil for evil's sake, this guy. Which is crazy because there's such a big deal about like what it takes for an AI to like want to kill a human, and yet this AI, who we're never given any backstory of, is just pure malice and I hate humans the most of everything. That don't they just don't explain it. He's just cartoon evil for no reason, even though he's an AI.
Yeah.
Astro visits Brow, and apparently big fans of each other. And then he also visits Kazik's wife and says goodbye to her. And he thinks he's going off to die because he's the only one who can stop the bomb.
Bora.
But he has to fight Pluto first, and they have this big fight. And he's like, I'm so full of hate that I am Super Saiyan level 2. And then he goes.
Yes. What in the world is going on here?
No.
Will you please finish, Jerry?
I strongly disagree, Jeremy, because the entire anime is literally about emotions. Of course, you have to end on emotions.
That doesn't change your frame. The entire anime is very
give
clear.
You zeronium armor.
That's right. Geshikt only was winning because of his zeronium armor, and we saw how quick Adam got dispatched before. So how in the world is Adam like doing little ballerina spins and ripping off the horns?
Okay, so in the original Astro Boy, I think I read they did upgrade his body for this fight, the second fight with Pluto that he has, and they're like, it might make him go berserk, but we're going to upgrade him into a more powerful weapon. But yeah, here they just went like he's really angry this time.
Yeah, I wish they had done that. If they had upgraded the body, I'd have been okay with it.
Actually, guns coming out his butt.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes for the killer.
Retro.
He goes for the killer blow, and all the dead super robots are in his head saying, "Don't." And so he doesn't. And then him and Pluto watch the stars until it's time for the bomb to show up.
Yep.
Literally,
at this point, I'm bored.
Bored.
The only thing that I can complain is I saw this coming a million miles away. Like
yeah.
We've had 2 robots already be like, let's not kill this guy. He's a victim. So, of course, the hero of the story is going to say the same thing.
I think it's more... Go ahead.
I was saying the next twist of the bad guy ends up saving the day and sacrificing himself to save the world. Also,
a twist at this point.
Right.
Yeah, another expected twist. Yeah. I think a story is more tragic if there is some, horrible consequence to the decision that has to be made. Like, if you know that this guy, there's a kernel of good in him, but for the sake of everybody else, you still have to eliminate him. That's very painful. That's a good tragic story as well. So I don't know.
Again, we've gone over this before, and this isn't even pacifism. This is his goal here is to stop the cycle of hate. If he kills Pluto, it just keeps going.
Who's gonna hate him for killing Pluto?
Adam is. If he uses the hate, it just keeps going.
I don't think it's hate. I know they're saying it's hate, but if it's for protection and defense of the entire world, that's not hate.
Love of your fellow robots and humans.
Yeah.
But, okay, if he had killed Pluto, the world would have died.
Maybe not. He probably could have survived the 5 minutes necessary to
No, he literally
Bora.
says, I can't survive the 5 minutes, I'm going to try anyway. He literally says that.
No, he said it would take 5 minutes for me to die, and it would take 5 minutes for me to defeat Bora. So it would be like Razor's Edge. But
in the English dub, he says, I can't do this, but I'm going to try anyway.
Oh,
I need 5 minutes to deprogram him, but I won't survive it.
Yeah, it's not the sub.
Obviously, I'm fine with the other. I feel like the ending is cliche, which I think goes back to where it came from. and so I mostly give it a pass for that. But I'm not bothered by it like you guys are. All right, Pluto. He's like, I'll do it. Sends him flying back out, and
Stop. Sorry.
yes,
Have to
magma's
complain.
hot and would have burned humans alive. We know.
No. Just not just that. Why does giving him the anti-proton formula allow him to levitate his dismembered body parts and bring them down into the tunnels? It's a formula to make an anti-proton bomb. Why does that give him telekinesis over his own body parts?
I think he already had telekinesis over his own body parts.
What? I've never seen him do that. A dismembered arm laying outside?
We haven't seen him do most of his fights.
Well,
Exactly. That's the problem.
yeah,
We don't know
that-
his power set.
That's Deus Ex then, if you're going to say he can do anything because we haven't seen him do anything.
Well,
That's
no,
fair.
he can do anything now because he has the emotion to.
That's what I mean. Like, wait a minute. What is this telekinesis from a
Welcome,
bomb
Trey.
formula? It's so annoying. But my other complaint was, like you said, like when Astro Boy picks them up, I was just picturing Spider-Man breaking her back by accident. I was like, that professor's really big, and that little boy arm, that's just gonna... He's dead, man. At the speeds Astro Boy picked him up, I mean, Adam.
Okay.
I have another complaint.
The magma's frozen because of science, of course, and
Oh my god, yes, that.
the world is saved. And then Brow walks into Teddy Roosevelt's room, grabs the president, and Teddy Roosevelt's like, yes, robot murder, kill the humans. And he's like, no, I actually like humans now, and throws his spear from his chest and kills Teddy Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've been dancing around this. If he was locked up, how did he get here? The answer is he could have left at any time he wanted to. Guy enjoys the long game.
I like that, actually. It makes me like him more.
Yeah. I like
That's
that
the only
too.
thing I was like, maybe Astro did something when he touched him. And I'm like, no. Because, no, he had already agreed to it before Astro touched him.
Even when the door opens, he's still kind of a mess on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just drags himself around with
Yeah.
that arm.
But yeah, I think he could have left at any time. Because Astro didn't set him free. Astro's like, hey, can you go and kill this guy for me? And then just like was leaving. And the guy's like, yep, I can totally do that. I'm fully
Got that.
capable of that action of getting to the country of Thracia and murdering that man, or that robot. All right.
Amazing.
And then Adam says, this is just going to keep happening. And he looks at the camera and a tear rolls down his eye.
Speaking of tears, why do all robots have tear ducts, including Pluto?
Literally, the point is they want to make them like humans.
Because they
Pluto
have
was-
reserves in their mechanisms.
Pluto was designed to kill the 7 robots. He had no reason to have tear ducts.
Was that his
Yeah,
original design purpose?
No, that was oil.
Was that oil? That was oil brought out by grief and wailing. Yeah.
All right. We're going to final reviews. Jeremy, why don't you start us off?
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Also, why do tulips and robot dogs have a heart rate monitor that beeps while they're being monitored or surgeries performed on them?
Is this part of the review?
Yeah. It was my last chance to get in one more. So I recognize that this anime is based off of a very popular, very renowned manga. The anime that it's based off of, storied. The author, I'm sure he's fantastic. I say this from a place of horrible ignorance because I know that he's also called the father of manga, the Astro Boy maker, right? So, just understanding that there's a lot of weight behind this. There's a lot more to it than just me coming here and giving my opinion on the work. I understand that there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, but there is way too much here that I personally I don't like. It has its high points. I really like the almost anthology-like storytelling with like North Number 2, Brando's story, Hercules' story, just getting like these short stories for each one of these characters. I liked that. I thought that was cool. But the overall story just did not, in the end, have enough positives to outweigh the negatives for me. I got to give this one a 2. Yeah, and I kind of thought I was going to give it more, but yeah, I wound up having a lot of like world issues and logic and contradiction issues that just really bug the heck out of me and make it an experience that I can't relax and enjoy it. I just got to pick at it.
All right, Jason.
If this was just Gischik's story without the final death, I'd probably give it a 4. Like, the animation's beautiful. The mystery and the intrigue was very enjoyable to watch. However, not only did we have multiple rule breaks of our own storytelling rules that we set up for ourselves, and then we had all sorts of caveats and Deus Ex Machinas to just make things happen. It felt forced. And then, like, just the real world on the nose reflection just kind of made that uninteresting and boring to me. And then the ending just wasn't satisfying. To have just because we need to bring back our star from death just so that they can go defeat the monster, which he doesn't actually defeat anyone, except with feelings and friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was scared at adults. I came out with a really bad taste in my mouth. It had some really good thought experiments. I think there's some really cool conversation pieces here, but again, I've never watched any of the Astro Boy, and I've never seen any of the manga, so I'm judging it based on my experience with this particular anime, and it's a 2. It's just not great.
It's a 4 for me. Really, the only thing I'm walking away with an actual complaint is what I said at the beginning, the pacing. I think the story's great. I think the characters are great. The logic is definitely flawed. I think that comes from its source and doesn't bother me. It's all stuff in service of the theme, which I thought was great. And Jason, just on the opposite end of you, I like the real world comparison thought processes. I don't agree with everything they always say, or what characters believe in, but just like I like reading different philosophies just to see how they explain themselves. I enjoy the thought experiments, like you put it, with adding in those real world parallels. Even though they undercut it a little bit with Teddy Roosevelt, actually, I was almost disappointed at the end because I was more into it than you had been. But I love the lore of it. I needed some time cutting down. It slogged at a couple points, so I can't give it a 5, despite it probably most people would. That's why I'm at a 4. All right, our next anime, just to remind you, is Dead Mount Death Play. So we will be watching the first 12 episodes of season 1 for our next episode. So if you are following along, that's what you'll be watching. And if you want to tell us what you think about Pluto, Astro Boy,
or hot takes,
or
our myriad of hot takes of this episode.
Please feel free to reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, our website, theanimebakaclub.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast, and it will get back to us. We very much appreciate those who reach out to us, and thank you very much for listening. It is time for us to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
The air in Japan has a faint trace of soy sauce.
Sayonara.
Good.